Chapter 877. Of course I know. Wang Feng guffawed. He had even guessed Long Xie's origin. An evil-type soul beast couldn't survive by relying on the evil thoughts of all soul beasts. It wasn't impossible for soul beasts to absorb and cultivate. However, it wasn't normal for a soul beast to survive by relying on evil thoughts. From this point of view, how were soul beasts born? Combined with Long Xie's dragon body and the fact that he knew Tian, his tone was extremely arrogant. However, Wang Feng felt that Long Xie was stronger than Tian. He even said that only a true god could kill him. Based on all of that, Long Xie was most likely the product of a true god. As for what god? Wang Feng didn't know much about true gods. However, Long Xie was like a villain in a game that Wang Feng remembered from his previous life. The evil sword immortal was an evil thought created by someone else. He was a living being created by someone else. However, Long Xie was stronger. It was because of his unique way of survival. There was no limit to his strength. In other words, the more evil thoughts the soul beasts in the Great Star Do Forest produced, the more evil thoughts they had. The more power they could unleash, the stronger they were. 9/10, 99%, and 9/10 of 1,000. That was the logic. Although he was bragging, that was what it meant. So what if you know? Long Xie sneered. I don't mind telling you that I can invade any soul beast's body and continue living. The heavenly tribulation didn't destroy me, so nothing in this world can destroy me. Unless you're a true god, you have to be a true god to destroy me. You have to be a powerful true god. Wang Feng looked at Long Xie. Bibi Dan was also silent. Both of them were recovering from their injuries. They couldn't even unleash the strength of a demigod, let alone a true god. Long Xie had said that many times. Wang Feng smiled and said, "Did you forget something?" "What?" Long Xie looked at him. Wang Feng looked at Bibi Dan and pointed at Bibidan's forehead. Suddenly, a white lotus flower was pulled out of Bibidan's body. In the next moment, Bibidan's body went limp. His injuries worsened. His entire body also began to undergo drastic changes. Once the martial soul fusion state was lost, without the white lotus purification suppression, Bibidan's evil thoughts from the blood arrow piercing her body almost instantly invaded her mind. At the same time, the injuries on her body rapidly worsened. The golden soul rings on Bibidan's body suddenly dispersed, transforming into 16 soul rings that landed on the two of them. Bibi Dan had just absorbed a drop of Wang Feng's blood essence, so even though he was injured, he wasn't in danger. Bibi Dan snorted and glanced at Wang Feng. He frowned and snorted. "If you want to take it out, tell me in advance." Wang Feng coughed a few times and nodded. He was a little anxious just now. The injuries on his body were gradually recovering. Under the effect of the human secret character, he was able to activate the meteoric tear. Therefore, the speed of his recovery was so fast that it made one's hair stand on end. As long as it wasn't like the last time, where his heart was destroyed in an extremely weak state. He could basically recover very quickly. Bibi Dan looked at Wang Feng, whose injuries had already scabbed over, and a look of surprise flashed across her eyes. She was well aware of how severe the injuries caused by the blood arrow were. If it were her, she would need at least 10 days to half a month to recover. However, Wang Feng's drop of blood was indeed extraordinary. It allowed her to recover a little. But who would have thought that in less than a few minutes, his injuries had almost fully recovered? Monster, Bibi Dan thought to herself. No wonder Shrek's people called him Monster Captain. What are you doing? I'm not afraid, even if you use this little white flower. Long Xie looked at the white lotus and said sternly. However, it sounded like he was trying to put on a strong front. It's impossible for you to kill me with just this little white flower. Long Xie laughed coldly. I won't be able to kill you in a short time. Wang Feng smiled. Under the effects of a human secret character and the meteoric tear, not only did his injuries recover by more than half, but he also recovered some of his soul power. The sum of the two was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. He gently activated the white lotus. Long Xie was still floating in the air. He wasn't afraid at all. Although he couldn't escape without a body, he wasn't afraid. The white lotus could only suppress him. It couldn't kill him. One had to know that he was born. Go. Wang Feng locked onto Long Xie and shouted. In the next instant, the white lotus flew back to Long Xie. It instantly flew under Long Xie's blood-red light. Then, the white lotus released streaks of white light that enveloped Long Xie. However, it only enveloped him. It didn't purify him immediately. When the white light came into contact with Long Xie's blood mist, a sizzling sound was heard. Strands of white mist came out from the white light. Long Xie's expression changed. A ring of blood-red light rose from his body and enveloped him. It resisted the white mist that only Long Xie could use. I told you that you can't kill me. Long Xie looked at the white lotus and said, You're a strange human. Your abilities are strange, but your white lotus doesn't have a soul ring. It's only in its basic form. It's not enough to kill me. Wang Feng was aware of that. The white lotus didn't have a soul ring yet. It was just that it couldn't unleash its full power yet. Is that so? Wang Feng laughed. Why don't you try absorbing the evil intent again? Although the white lotus can't completely purify you, it can prevent you from absorbing the evil intent. In other words, you won't be able to recover. You'll only die a slow death in my white lotus. Of course, it might take some time. Half a month? A month? A year? You'll be gone when the time comes. Wang Feng couldn't purify Long Xie's evil intent immediately because he couldn't use the white lotus. After all, Long Xie was a million-year soul beast. The evil intent it cultivated was very powerful. However, it could prevent Long Xie from absorbing the evil intent. It couldn't become stronger, and it couldn't escape. It could only die a slow death. However, Wang Feng couldn't use the white lotus during this period. He couldn't even add a soul ring. Otherwise, Long Xie could recover, and everything would be for naught. Long Xie's expression changed when he heard that. This was what he was most worried about. The light from the white lotus blocked all evil intent. He couldn't leave, and he couldn't absorb the evil intent to recover. Long Xie fell silent. But there's no point in doing that. Bibi Dan walked over and whispered. Wang Feng knew what Bibi Dan meant. He could kill Long Xie by doing that, but he wouldn't be able to obtain his soul ring. Long Xie's body was destroyed, but it was only a body. Long Xie wasn't truly dead. End of chapter. Chapter 878. He might not even get a soul bone from it. Wang Feng was going to wear Long Xie down for a long time. Long Xie's body would eventually rot. Without Long Xie's own will entering his body, everything would be meaningless. Apart from that, Wang Feng couldn't absorb Long Xie as long as he didn't form soul rings. How could a soul beast of such a level submit so easily? Wang Feng wasn't a true god, so he couldn't kill Long Xie immediately. If this continued, perhaps Long Xie would be scared out of his wits. Even if he gave in the end, the quality of his soul rings would drop as he was relying on his cultivation of evil thoughts to resist the purification ability of the white lotus. The longer he resisted, the lower his cultivation would be, and his cultivation would affect his soul rings. In the end, his cultivation would be gone, and he wouldn't be able to absorb Long Xie's evil thoughts. Even if he didn't die, the quality of his soul rings would drop as time passed. If that happened, this battle would be for naught. Wang Feng wasn't that kind of person. He smiled at Long Xie and said, I'll give you a chance to live. Long Xie looked at Wang Feng and said, Human, do you want me to sacrifice myself to you, human? Wang Fengxin thought to himself, Long Xie's acting is smart. However, it seems like it's impossible to get a soul beast of such a level to sacrifice himself to me. Bibi Dan didn't think it was possible either. How could a million-year soul beast sacrifice its pride to a human? Bibi Dan didn't think it would sacrifice itself to a human even if it died. Furthermore, it was a human who had beaten it to such a state. What kind of soul beast do you think I am? As expected, Long Xie looked at Wang Feng haughtily. Do you think I, Long Xie, would sacrifice myself to a human just to survive? Am I a soul beast that lives without purpose? I've lived for so long, and I have my own pride. I won't sacrifice myself to a human. It sounded very determined and arrogant. Bibi Dan shook its head when it heard that. Wang Feng's idea was good, but it was too far-fetched. However, at this moment, Wang Feng suddenly waved his hand and interrupted Long Xie. Cut the crap. What are your conditions? As long as you agree to 2 of my conditions, I'll sacrifice myself to you. Long Xie said. BB Don. BB Don gaped at Long Xie. Isn't this answer a little too fast? Wang Feng chuckled. He had more or less figured out Long Xie's personality. Long Xie was proud. However, his heart was filled with more evil thoughts and unwillingness. Long Xie's background. Long Xie probably didn't want to die. With great difficulty, he managed to survive the heavenly tribulation. How could he possibly want to die like this? No problem. Wang Feng replied. Aren't you going to ask what my conditions are? Long Xie glared at Wang Feng. Are you that arrogant, human? Then what are your conditions? Wang Feng asked. Long Xie snorted. Human, I'm not just offering you a condition. Although I used my full strength, you were able to defeat me. You have 9,999% of your potential. That's enough to prove your potential. I see your potential. He was telling the truth. Long Xie didn't want to die. He barely survived. How could he die like this? This human is amazing. He knows so much about me. It's unbelievable. More importantly, his potential is limitless. A rank 80 soul master was actually able to exchange blows with him. Even with his knowledge, he was shocked. He was looking forward to it. Just how far would this human go? All right, cut the crap. Wang Feng frowned. Hurry up if you want to sacrifice yourself. Sacrifice was different from absorption. He could absorb Long Xie's soul ring perfectly and fuse with it. He could also absorb it slowly as his soul power increased. That way, his soul power would increase faster. Soul bones and soul skills were secondary. What's the hurry? Long Xie asked. If I become your soul ring, how can you be sure that you won't absorb my soul? Do you think my noble soul will absorb your filthy and evil soul? Wang Feng scoffed. I don't want it even if you give it to me. If you have nothing else to do, just stay in your soul ring. Behave yourself. Long Xie was speechless. Long Xie couldn't help but look at this human. He had never lost to anyone in certain aspects. This human seemed to be the same kind of person as him. No, I don't believe you. Long Xie pondered for a moment. That's simple. Split a strand of your evil soul, and I'll let it enter my sea of consciousness. If I dare to absorb your soul, you can use your evil soul to attack my soul. You'll be able to injure me severely. Wang Feng suddenly said. At the same time, you have to let part of the white lotus enter your evil soul in exchange for control. What do you think? That's a good idea. Long Xie nodded. He was using his cultivation to resist the white lotus. If he allowed the white lotus to enter his main body's evil will, Wang Feng would only need to activate it slightly to quickly purify the evil dragon's main body. To show my sincerity, I'll let your evil soul enter my sea of consciousness. Wang Feng looked at Long Xie. At this moment, Bibi Dan looked at Wang Wu suspiciously. She knew that Wang Wu was very cunning. She could tell that he was a spy from the moment he became her confidant. The white-robed Popetiff could tell that he was a spy. He was putting on a good show. How could she give him something to use against her? Even though she did have something to use against him. Wang Feng dispersed the light mist formed by the white lotus, opening up an opening. Long Xie's body shook. A strand of his evil soul entered Wang Feng's sea of consciousness through his eyes. At the same time, Long Xie opened up a hole in the white lotus. Wang Feng controlled the white lotus, and a white lotus petal fell. He sent it into Long Xie's evil soul. The petal was carefully wrapped by Long Xie's blood-red light before it entered his evil soul. Human, it seems like you're quite sincere. Long Xie looked at Wang Feng with a strange look in his eyes. Unfortunately, I'm not that simple. You let my evil soul enter your sea of consciousness. Do you know what that means? Your white lotus explosion can only purify 1/10 of my cultivation at most. However, as long as my evil thoughts enter your soul, it will never disappear. Your soul will be dominated by me. You're smart. You want to scheme against me, but you're still not as smart as I am. Ha ha hum. Bibi Don frowned when she heard that. This soul beast wasn't easy to deal with either. However, Long Xie came to an abrupt stop. Then, he suddenly looked at Wang Feng with a terrified expression. Wang Feng looked at him with a smile. Bibi Dong frowned as he watched the scene unfold before him. P.S. 7 chapters a little late, cough cough, and a chapter. Chapter 879. Inside the Sea of Consciousness. The moment Long Xie's evil will entered the sea of consciousness, it saw the spiritual pond that was as thick as ink. It wasn't as vast as the ocean. Instead, there was invisible pressure. That was nothing. In the next moment, the chaotic green lotus, the Pango axe, and the dark angel martial soul. 3 different martial souls. The martial souls in Wang Feng's spiritual consciousness instantly surrounded Long Xie's evil thought. Long Xie trembled. "You!" Long Xie screamed. "Despicable human, were those things in your spiritual consciousness? Were those 3 things?" His voice was filled with incomparable terror. Even with his knowledge, he had never seen the green flower and the Pangu axe before. The aura they gave off was peerless. Furthermore, Long Xie's spiritual consciousness had extremely pure spiritual power and aura. It was untainted. Long Xie's evil thought couldn't move an inch. Even if all his evil thoughts entered Long Xie's spiritual consciousness, they wouldn't be able to invade Long Xie's spiritual consciousness. Long Xie's 3 mysterious martial souls were able to suppress Long Xie's evil thought. On the other hand, Long Xie could destroy Long Xie's evil thought at any time. Wang Feng laughed and looked at Long Xie. "Kid, remember to call me boss from now on. From now on, you're no longer Long Xie." Long Xie. Long Xie looked at Wang Feng dejectedly. His final plan had gone down the drain. There was no way out. If even his evil thoughts were useless against Long Xie's spiritual consciousness, and were suppressed after entering Long Xie's spiritual consciousness, there was nothing he could do. Long Xie was in disbelief. He had never seen such a pure spiritual consciousness and spiritual consciousness before. Even gods had all kinds of thoughts. However, their souls were too strong, and they wouldn't be affected by these thoughts. However, gods weren't pure either. Every god had slaughtered countless living beings in their hands. Their souls were different from humans in that they were too strong. Any evil thoughts would be suppressed by their spiritual consciousness. However, it was impossible to say that their souls were pure. Killing intent, hatred, bottlenecks, all kinds of emotions and desires could cause different kinds of evil thoughts. This was why the soul beasts in the Great Star Doe Forest had evil thoughts all the time. However, this human's soul and spirit were so pure that he couldn't do anything to him. It was even said that the 3 powerful and strange martial spirits could instantly suppress his evil thoughts. This was especially true for the dark angel martial soul. Even with his vast knowledge and experience, he had never seen such a martial soul before. In fact, he even had the urge to submit to it. The other 2 martial spirits emitted an aura that could easily crush his evil thoughts into nothingness. "I accept," Long Xie said dispiritedly. At this moment, Bibidin's beautiful eyes opened slightly. She didn't know what this soul beast had seen in Wang Wu's sea of consciousness. But as expected, with Wang Wu's cunning, it was impossible for him to fall into the other party's trap. Instead, it was this soul beast that had been tricked. Wang Feng smiled. Long Xie's words implied that the battle had come to an end. It could be said that this was the most difficult battle he had ever fought since he came to this world. The strength of a million-year soul beast refreshed Wang Feng's understanding. The kind of fighting style that really put one's life on the line was completely beyond one's normal fighting strength. Even his previous battle with Bibi Don wasn't as troublesome as this one. In this battle, Wang Feng also realized that a true God-class soul beast was stronger than he had imagined. Most importantly, different soul beasts had different strengths and abilities. It was impossible to compare them. Unless one's strength was enough to completely crush a soul beast, the slightest carelessness would result in a GG. Thinking back, If BB Dawn hadn't arrived and used her martial soul fusion skill, Wang Feng would have run away with his tail between his legs. You must have a piece of your soul, right? Wang Feng looked at BB Dawn and said, those 3 soul beasts aren't dead yet. One of them died prematurely and dropped a soul bone. You shouldn't be lacking any. Gui Ju, Qianjun, and Qianjun hadn't participated in the battle earlier. Instead, they had gone to restrain the 3 dying soul beasts. Of the 4 soul beasts that had attacked De Ming and Air Ming, only the Hydra had been killed by the sea god's projection. The other 3 soul beasts hadn't died. However, thinking of this, Wang Feng was suddenly stunned. If BB Dawn absorbed any 2 of the 3 soul beasts, would that mean BB Dawn was about to become a god? Thinking of this, Wang Feng glanced at BB Dawn and broke out in cold sweat. What? Are you afraid that I'll become a god? BB Dawn seemed to have seen through Wang Feng's heart, and a cold expression appeared on his face. My injuries aren't as fast as yours. If you want to stop my inheritance, is it too late? After saying that, BB Dawn let go of Wang Feng's shoulder and stumbled back 2 steps. Hearing this, Wang Feng fell silent. After the battle, just now, the relationship between the 2 of them was a little strange. But on such a sensitive topic, it was still the same. Seeing Wang Feng's silence, Bibidon's body trembled and said expressionlessly, by the way, once I become a god, I will establish the martial soul empire. As for the remaining forces that are still struggling, I will personally take action and destroy them one by one. With the martial soul alliance's current prestige in the continent, no one can say anything. Once BB Dawn became a god, he didn't need to care so much. Now the alliance had the upper hand. If he didn't establish an empire, with the alliance's current momentum, the 2 empires would struggle to hold on. With a large number of soul masters flowing into the alliance, the remaining strength of the 2 empires would collapse in a few years at most. If he became a god first, BB Dawn wouldn't need to care. With the strength of a god, BB Dawn didn't need to care about Wang Feng and Tang San. If he was ruthless, he could directly kill the emperors of the 2 empires and the leaders of the resistance forces. At that time, the 2 empires and countless forces would be in a mess, disintegrating and being swallowed by the martial soul empire in an instant. The continent would be a foregone conclusion. Your friends, Tang San, Shrek's 7 monsters, and that soul beast. BB Dawn looked at Wang Feng and said word by word, as long as they don't join the alliance and continue to resist, I will be the first to capture them all. The 2 girls from the 7 freaks like you, don't they? And the 7 treasure, glazed tile sect. Are you going to make a move on me now? Hearing this, Wang Feng frowned slightly. Wang Wu, you still have a choice now. BB Dawn looked at Wang Feng coldly. You can continue to be a Pope-Tiff Wang Wu and join the Martial Soul Alliance. I can give you anything you want. You can either stop me from becoming a god or kill me. Now, this is your best and only chance. It was as if he had returned to the scene on the Sea God's Island. Wang Feng didn't expect it to be just a thought. His relationship with BB Dawn, which was barely eased, exploded in an instant. He could only say that women were too sensitive. However, this was something he would have to face eventually. At the side, Long Xie seemed to be quite interested in the 2 of them. He had some understanding of martial soul fusion skills. He knew that it was impossible to use that kind of martial soul fusion skill if the 2 of them weren't close to a certain extent. However, the 2 of them who looked quite close and supported each other suddenly seemed to have a fierce conflict. Interesting man. Long Xie glanced at Wang Feng and then at BB Dawn. Interesting woman. End of chapter. Chapter 880. However, Wang Feng said, I won't stop you from becoming a god, but I won't join the martial spirit hall and cut all ties. BB Dawn sneered. Wang Wu, are you still a middleman? Do you know that if you waver, you won't be able to please either side? You might not get anything in the end. Is that so? Wang Feng said in surprise. I feel that if I waver, I can get anything. You're talking about people who aren't strong enough. But I'm different. You. BB Dawn looked at him. Her face was red from anger. BB Dawn seemed to think of something. She calmed down and didn't say anything. She ignored Wang Feng. Instead, She walked to the three soul beasts restrained by the four titled Dalu. Chrysanthemum Ghost and Qianjun Demon Fighter were injured by the aftershock of Long Xie's fake death. They were recovering quietly. In that sort of situation, the injuries they received were not light at all. Interesting. You humans are really interesting. Long Xie chuckled as he watched the two of them leave. Those two were so close just a moment ago. I didn't think they'd become strangers in such a short time. You humans are really interesting. Cut the crap. Hurry up and sacrifice. Wang Feng glared at Long Xie. Also, those three soul beasts are your subordinates. Think of a way to sacrifice them to her. Wang Feng pointed at Bibi Dawn. She didn't kill your subordinates. They don't hate her. That shouldn't be difficult, right? Furthermore, her martial soul should be compatible with those three soul beasts. As long as two of them are willing, it'll be fine. Bibi Dawn could change the situation if she became a god earlier. However, Wang Feng felt that he could control it. As long as he could get Long Xie's power and reach rank 90, he could suppress Bibi Dawn. She still couldn't beat him. Human, you seem to... what are you doing? Long Xie looked over at Wang Feng and was about to say something when his true form trembled, and he glared angrily at Wang Feng. He felt the white lotus petal in the evil spirit's body release a wave of energy. He was in great pain. What are you talking about? You have to call him boss in the future. Wang Feng glanced at Long Xie with a smile. Long Xie's face flickered. In the end, he snorted coldly. Boss, she wants to part ways with you. Why are you still helping her? It wasn't difficult for me to convince my three subordinates to sacrifice themselves. They had been injured by that God's divine will, so it was basically impossible for them to recover their cultivation. Sacrificing is also an option. These three subordinates had been by his side for a long time and were his fanatical followers. Now that even his master was going to be sacrificed, it would be good enough if his subordinates could keep their lives. This was because, theoretically speaking, the sacrifice was not a complete disappearance. 100,000-year soul beast was too powerful, and its soul would remain in the soul ring for the time being. Once the owner of the soul ring became a god, everyone would ascend to heaven. They might even have a chance to revive. But why would he do this? Because she helped me just now, Wang Feng said. I don't want to help you. Long Xie was stunned. Then he sneered. If it wasn't for this human woman, you wouldn't have been able to defeat me. You want me to help you deal with my human woman? Those three soul beasts don't hate her, but I do. Sorry, I won't help you. Hearing this, Wang Feng smiled and said, Then you'd better think carefully. The sacrifice is just icing on the cake. Even if you don't sacrifice yourself, she can easily absorb it. But if you don't help her, you won't have an easy time in the future. These three subordinates of yours will also die. You pretentious dragon. Don't be too narrow-minded. That was the truth. But in fact, the sacrifice wasn't just icing on the cake. It was very useful for Bibi Dawn right now. Because Bibi Dawn was in a heavily injured state, if he sacrificed her, there would be no obstruction. She would be able to absorb it in a short period of time and use it to recover from her injuries. If she took the initiative to absorb it, it wouldn't be so easy. She would have to recover to her peak state before she could absorb it. It would take at least a few days for her to fully absorb it. After all, none of the three soul beasts were simple. Long Xie was silent. If that's the case, I'll reluctantly agree. Long Xie thought for a long time before he said, Wang Feng. This idiot, he's clearly thinking the same thing, but he's acting like I'm begging him? Wang Feng looked at Long Xie. He really wanted to show off all the time. Long Xie floated over to the three soul beasts. Bibi Dawn frowned. She didn't know what he meant. Long Xie sent out a strand of evil consciousness into the three soul beasts. Then, he started to communicate with them. At first, the three evil soul beasts were very excited. But soon, they fell silent. Then, they looked at Bibi Dawn. Bibi Dawn knew what he meant. There was a look of hesitation in his eyes. They want to sacrifice themselves? Bibi Dawn was taken aback. She looked at Long Xie and then at Wang Feng. She felt a ripple in her heart. He doesn't want to destroy my godly position. I'm overthinking it. Thinking of this, Bibi Dawn sighed in his heart. If she sacrificed 2 soul beasts, she would become a god faster. Maybe I should consider his thoughts? This thought suddenly popped up in Bibi Dong's mind, and she immediately threw him into a corner and left. Impossible. The martial soul alliance was already set. The dawn of unifying the continent was right in front of her. Wang Wu couldn't be on her side. Even if he was neutral, Wang Wu couldn't do it. Shrek, the 2 empires, and the 2 sections. How could he not help them? Bibi Dong looked at the distant horizon. In the past, her heart was filled with hatred, and her will was firm. She wanted to unify the continent and destroy everything. However, after the 8th test, Bibi Dong felt that her will and mentality had changed a lot. The hatred in her heart had decreased by more than half. Although she still wanted to unify the continent, it was more of an ambition. She wanted to change the martial soul hall, which she hated. After returning from the Sea Gods Island, she stayed silent for about a month. She didn't really deal with those factions. Then she thought it through. She wanted to become a god. Only by becoming a god could she revive the dead. So, she came to the Great Star Doe Forest to find the last 2 soul beasts to prepare for her ascension. But miraculously, she saw Wang Wu alive. After that, she wanted to become a god even more. That was the only way. Only then would she be able to reach a higher position. As for why, Bibi Dong didn't know. She wanted to reach a higher position. Only then would she dare to touch the impossible in her heart. End of chapter. Chapter 881. Just as Bibi Dong was lost in her thoughts, Long Xie came in front of her and said, "Human woman, give them some time. I hope you'll treat them well in the future. Even though they're evil soul beasts, they only listen to my orders. Everything they do is for my sake. Forget it. There's no point in talking to you. I'm going to make a sacrifice too." Long Xie Xiong walked back in high spirits. Bibi Dong didn't say anything as she looked at the 3 soul beasts, who were still in deep thought. With soul beasts as sacrifices, not only could she recover quickly, but her ascension to godhood would also be smoother. It was faster than she had planned. At the same time, the evil dragon returned to Wang Feng and shouted, "Human, prepare to receive my power. You'll feel honored and proud. This will be the luckiest thing in your life." After that, he didn't wait for Wang Feng to get angry. He rushed into the dragon's body that had been cut in 2. Following this, a blood-golden soul ring rose from the body of this enormous dragon. "A million-year soul ring," Wang Feng muttered. "This should be the first million-year soul ring in this world, right?" Boundless life energy spread out from the giant dragon's body. Soul beast sacrifice wasn't an ordinary soul skill. It was a sacrifice of life and soul. It gave all its power to the person who made the sacrifice. To be able to get a million-year soul beast as a sacrifice, it could be said that it was impossible for this battle to be lacking in any aspect. At this moment, there were no evil thoughts in the blood-red energy. It contained pure life energy. Long Xie's figure was faintly discernible in the blood-gold soul ring. Life energy surged out like an ocean. It symbolized that this ancient life was about to be completely released at this moment. The blood-red energy didn't make people feel disgusted at all. Wang Feng sat cross-legged. The golden soul ring landed on his body. He didn't even need to use his soul power to guide it. The first million-year soul ring from a million-year soul beast. The first million-year soul beast sacrifice. Wang Feng didn't know how powerful it would be when it combined with the soul ring. But it would definitely be amazing. Boundless blood-colored energy surged into Wang Feng's body under the influence of that blood-golden soul ring. At the same time, Long Xie's true form began to fade. In his sea of consciousness, the chaotic green lotus emitted a dazzling green light. The lotus seed on the lotus platform quietly bloomed and turned into a white lotus. Boundless soul energy fused into Wang Feng's body, flowing into the white lotus in his sea of consciousness. In an instant, this pure and holy white lotus seemed to be dyed with blood. With the influx of boundless energy, the white lotus gradually bloomed, its petals becoming fuller and fuller, exuding a peaceful aura. However, the petals of the lotus were slightly redder. It added a special evil and demonic aura to this holiness. After obtaining Long Xie's soul ring, the white lotus that could purify the world became complete. The power of a million-year soul beast was an all-around increase in strength. Long Xie's true form wasn't weak at all. It was extremely strong. A vast amount of energy flowed in, causing Wang Feng to feel his strength rapidly growing. His body gave off layers of rainbow light. Wang Feng had underestimated the changes brought about by this million-year soul beast. At the same time, Long Xie was also sensing Wang Feng's body. A skill like sacrifice usually depended on how much power one could take. If one's body couldn't take it, then part of the soul ring's power would be stored temporarily. As the body of the other party became stronger, the soul ring's power would slowly be nurtured. However, it was clear that this human's body was extremely strong. With only rank 80 soul power, he could fight a million-year soul beast like Long Xie, who had lived for many years. In terms of strength, he wasn't inferior to Long Xie when he revealed his true form. Long Xie wasn't disappointed. Most of the energy in his soul ring was completely absorbed by Wang Feng. An explosive power rippled in Wang Feng's sea of consciousness. Wang Feng couldn't use words to describe the power he had obtained after absorbing the million-year soul ring. Long Xie was a demigod. He was only one step away from becoming a true god. After the white lotus matured, such immense cultivation flowed through Wang Feng's body. His soul power rank was rapidly increasing. Sacrifice allowed Wang Feng to absorb the soul ring's power without any hindrance or difficulty. As Wang Feng absorbed the soul ring's power, the dragon's body also started to change. Two types of soul bones shone with a crystalline light. Other than that, there was also a set of armor made of blood-red scales and an external soul bone. At this moment, Bibi Dong was standing in front of Wang Feng, staring blankly. Sacrifice was different from absorption. A soul beast gave all its power to the person it was sacrificing. Evidently, this million-year soul beast was far stronger than Bibi Dong had imagined. 2 armed soul bones and an external soul bone. Bibi Dong sighed softly. The target of the sacrifice was Wang Feng. The moment these soul bones were sacrificed, they were already inextricably linked to Wang Feng. It was extremely rare for a soul beast to drop 2 soul bones. However, Bibi Dong had seen it before. She had 2 soul bones too. They came from the same soul beast, the death spiderweb. Therefore, Bibi Dong was shocked by the scene in front of him. However, he wasn't so shocked that he couldn't imagine it. It was a pity that the external soul bone seemed to be in conflict with his own. Bibi Dong knew that Wang Feng had a soul bone that could transform into countless weapons. It was also an external soul bone that looked like an armor. What a pity! Bibi Dong shook his head gently. At this moment, the 3 soul beasts were still in an intense battle over whether to sacrifice to Bibi Dong. However, it should be over soon. After all, even their boss was in such a state. Bibi Dong walked over first to see how Wang Wu absorbed the first million-year soul ring in the history of the continent. Furthermore, it was absorbed in the most inconceivable way by sacrificing. Bibi Dong was naturally curious about this. What she was more curious about was that there was a limit to how much the human body could receive from a soul ring. Once this limit was exceeded, one would definitely not be able to withstand it. However, she wasn't one of them. This was because she was already half a step into the god realm and possessed a portion of god power. Her body could withstand the soul power of any 100,000-year soul beast. However, Wang Feng wasn't a god and hadn't stepped into the god realm. Although the sacrifice was based on the amount of power he could withstand, it could still exceed the limit. After all, it was 1,000,000 years. However, Bibi Dong immediately thought of Wang Wu's tyrannical body. His physique was even stronger than hers. How could a rank 80 human have such a strong body? The energy of the million-year soul ring quickly fused into Wang Feng's body. At this moment, Wang Feng's skin seemed to be dyed light red. Bibi Dong could clearly sense the explosive power without attacking. Every inch of his skin seemed to contain a power that could destroy heaven and earth. His body was completely able to withstand it. BB Don muttered in his heart. End of chapter. Chapter 882. At the same time, in a place far away from them, Tang San was surrounded by golden flames. Tang San's body could withstand the power of two 100,000-year-old beasts, but it was very limited. However, he was also the successor of the sea god. He had passed the 7 trials of the sea god, so he was naturally extraordinary. He was also half a step into the realm of gods. With the power of the sea god's trident, he perfectly absorbed the sacrifice of the 2 Ming emperors. Xiao Wu, on the other hand, looked into the distance worriedly. The sounds of the battle continued to spread. Even from so far away, Xiao Wu could feel how terrifying the scale of the battle was. Even in her soul form, she felt a little suffocated from the energy fluctuations. I hope Brother Feng is fine. Xiao Wu turned around and looked at Tang San, her beautiful eyes widening slightly. Tang San had broken her soul bone, but it quickly grew back under the effect of his blue-silver domain. In addition, it was supported by the 2 Ming emperors' soul bones. His strength did not decrease. His soul power had risen to rank 94 and was close to rank 95. He went from rank 80 to almost rank 10. At this time, he was using the power of the sea god's trident to absorb the power of the 2 soul rings. The clear sky hammer in his hand had gained its first 100,000-year soul ring. The blue-silver grass, on the other hand, lit up with 9 soul rings. In its martial soul form, it exuded the aura of the blue-silver emperor. All 5 red soul rings were second to none in the current continent. A moment later, the golden flames disappeared. Tang San's figure appeared. He stood up, his eyes shining, and his body was as imposing as the ocean. An incomparably powerful aura was faintly emitted from his body. Tang San rubbed his hands together, and the 2 unique soul bones seemed to be connected by flesh and blood. These 2 soul bones were given to him by the 2 Ming emperors after the sacrifice. However, Tang San did not hesitate. He picked up the trident and rushed in the direction of the battle. Xiao Wu, what happened when I absorbed the soul rings? Tang San's figure was like a ray of blue light, disappearing into the forest. His speed was already extremely fast. His current physique was much stronger than that of a rank 95 transcendent Douluo. I'm not sure, but the situation seems to have changed. I'm afraid the battle has already ended, Xiao Wu whispered. Upon hearing this, Tang San's heart skipped a beat. His soul power had already reached its limit after his breakthrough. Big Brother Feng, you can't let anything happen to you. Tang San's eyes flashed with a cold light. Otherwise, I'll kill you even if I have to risk my life, BB Don. However, Xiao Wu felt uneasy. When Tang San finished absorbing the energy, the momentum of the battle had suddenly stopped. This meant that the outcome of the battle had been decided. Can Brother Feng defeat a 1,000,000-year soul beast? Xiao Wu didn't know. Over the years, even though she had been in her soul form and rarely appeared in public, she was still aware of what Wang Feng had done. Taking a step back, even if he could defeat that terrifying 1,000,000-year soul beast, he would still be able to defeat it. What if BB Don's sneak attack from the side? Brother Feng, who had survived with great difficulty, would have no chance of survival at all. To be able to defeat that 1,000,000-year soul beast, he would definitely be in an extremely weak state. If he were to fight BB Don, even if Xiao Wu and Tang San could only pray that the Pope BB Don wouldn't arrive in advance. It would be best if he was delayed or obstructed. Soon they approached, because they could sense the aura, the enormous aura of a 1,000,000-year soul beast. Oh no! Before they even saw it, Tang San's expression changed drastically. At this moment, he was enveloped in a vast sea universe shroud and used the blue-silver domain to sense things very far away. Brother, what's wrong? Xiao Wu asked hurriedly. BB Don is not far from Brother Feng. Tang San's expression was extremely ugly. According to my senses, Brother Feng seems to be absorbing the soul rings. I think Brother Feng must have sensed Bibidon's arrival midway. With his intelligence and foresight, not only did he not give Bibidon any opportunity, I'm afraid he even used Bibidon's strength to deal with that million-year soul beast. Because Bibidon's aura is very weak now, that million-year soul beast should have been killed. According to my guess, it is very likely that Brother Feng diverted the calamity and directed its anger to Bibidon, causing Bibidon to be seriously injured by that million-year soul beast. Brother Feng is really amazing. He turned danger into safety. Hearing this, Xiao Wu was stunned. She thought to herself, Brother Feng is probably the only one who can kill two birds with one stone at such a critical moment. Isn't that good? Xiao Wu heaved a sigh of relief. No, not good. Tang San's eyes flickered with purple light, and his whole body sped up by 30%. That Bibidon is a sinister and cunning person. She was schemed against and was severely injured, so she must have faked her death to confuse Brother Feng. She wants to take advantage of Brother Feng's weakened defense after absorbing the soul ring to give him a fatal blow. Xiao Wu, brother, you were absorbing the soul ring just now. How did you know so clearly? Xiao Wu asked. I analyzed it. Tang San's face was slightly gloomy. In the next moment, after passing through countless trees, the terrain that had been flattened due to the battle appeared in front of them. Both of them sucked in a breath of cold air. Brother, quickly look, it's just as you thought. Xiao Wu screamed and pointed to the front. At this moment, Bibidon was standing beside Wang Feng. Wang Feng's eyes were tightly closed, and a huge wave of soul power was emitted from his body. His golden soul ring was somewhat dazzling. The huge dragon's body had not completely disappeared. Only two soul bones were slowly flowing into Wang Feng's body. Clearly, it was still absorbing the power of the soul ring and soul bone, especially the blood-colored dragon scale armor. It was strangely floating on Wang Feng's chest at this moment. Bibidon looked at Wang Feng and thought of what she said before. She couldn't help but snort softly. You're not worried at all? Absorbing the soul ring directly. You have so many soul bones. Aren't you afraid that I'll snatch them? Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? You're so relaxed. As she spoke, Bibidon looked at Wang Feng, who was absorbing the soul ring at this moment, and a trace of confusion flashed in her eyes. She stretched out her hand as if she was going to gently stroke his cheek. However, at this moment, accompanied by a fierce roar, a strong wave of soul power came. Bibidon, you're courting death. Don't touch him. You'll never return. In the next moment, Bibidon was shocked. She was in an extremely weak state at this moment, and she didn't sense that there was someone around her. Is that Tang San's voice? She turned around abruptly and saw the figure charging toward her. Her heart skipped a beat. Danger! An intense sense of danger attacked Bibidon's mind. Then, a bright golden shadow appeared behind Tang San. It was holding a golden trident, and it had already locked on a Bibidon. The golden trident turned into a streak of flowing light as it pierced through the clouds and broke through the dawn. Bibidon's eyes suddenly shrank. She screamed and used the soul power that she had recovered just now, and her martial soul directly attached to her body. However, this amount of soul power was not enough for her to use her martial soul true body. The Rakshasa demon scythe appeared in her hand. Although she couldn't use it, it was a divine weapon, and its sharpness was needless to say. However, the moment she placed the Rakshasa demon scythe in front of her, the trident that was formed by the sea gods trident instantly pierced through her soul power barrier and sent the demon scythe flying in her hand, Poochie. It instantly pierced through her body. P.S. I want to rest today, but there might not be any left later. Everyone could go to bed early in a chapter. Chapter 883. Under the protection of the vast sea cosmic shroud, Tang Sin broke through to rank 94 and unleashed the 13 golden halberds. Even though he wasn't very familiar with this move, even so, it still easily destroyed all of Bibidon's defenses. The golden halberd projection instantly penetrated Bibidon's body. The immense strength even sent her flying back dozens of meters. In the distance, the four titled Douluo who were recuperating immediately reacted. Your Highness! Instantly, the four of them felt their scalps go numb. They stood up furiously and glared at Tang San. Although they were also severely injured, they weren't as severely injured as BB Don and Wang Feng. After recuperating, they had recovered about 50% to 60%. When they saw BB Don being attacked by Tang San, they were furious, but their mind were also blank. It was important to note that BB Don was very weak earlier. The four of them knew that. Under such circumstances, such a powerful move penetrated his body. The four of them released their soul rings as they stared coldly at Tang San. Kill him, the chrysanthemum Douluo shouted. We shouldn't have let him live earlier. After he finished speaking, Qian Jun and the demon fighter immediately rushed towards Tang San. The chrysanthemum Douluo and the ghost Douluo quickly walked in front of BB Don. They wanted to check on the Pope's injuries. When they saw him, they felt a chill in their hearts. That dazzling golden move was simply too powerful. That was a divine skill. After being penetrated by this move, a huge hole appeared on Bibidon's body. Golden light spread from the wound and intertwined with the purplish-black aura on Bibidon's body. The two different forces seemed to be fighting each other. However, the two of them could sense that the Pope's life force was quickly fading away. Under such circumstances, it was impossible for the Pope to survive. He was definitely going to die. The chrysanthemum Douluo and the ghost Douluo looked at each other. Then, they glared at Tang San. Immediately after, the two of them looked at each other and rushed towards Tang San. What would it mean if BB Don was dead? This meant that the current momentum of the Martial Spirit Alliance would collapse instantly. All the efforts of the Martial Spirit Palace over the past few years would be for naught. We must kill this brat. This was the only thought in the minds of the chrysanthemum Douluo and ghost Douluo. However, at this moment, a cold sneer flashed through Tang San's eyes at the sight of the Jew, Douluo, and gay Douluo. Brother, can you beat four-title Douluo? Xiao Wu worriedly communicated with Tang San telepathically. Of course not, Tang San replied, but BB Don is dead and Big Brother Feng is safe. I don't need to defeat them. I just need to lure them all away. Furthermore, there are injuries on their bodies. It's obvious that they were affected by the shock waves of the battle between the million-year-soul beasts. It's not that easy to kill me. It was true that Tang San could not defeat four-title Douluo, especially the twin brothers, Qian Jun and Gong Mo, who were both rank 96 title Douluo. Even with his recent breakthrough, he had not had time to adapt to the situation. I see. This way, we can create a safe environment for Big Brother Feng. Xiao Wu nodded. Then, brother, let's go. BB Don is dead. Without her, the Martial Spirit Alliance's situation on the continent will change quickly. Furthermore, at this point, Xiao Wu did not continue the conversation. Bibidon's death meant too many things. Her current state could be said to be indirectly caused by BB Don. Furthermore, there was her mother. Big Brother Feng was killed by BB Don once. That day on the Sea God's Island, everyone was pulled into the Rakshas's secret realm. It could be said that they were facing the Grim Reaper. They were only one step away from death. Tang San glanced at Wang Feng in the distance. He thought that he had arrived in time. Immediately, he turned and left. After killing BB Don and luring away the four-titled Douluo, Big Brother Feng was completely free of worries. Seeing Tang San turn and slip away, the four-titled Douluo were even more furious. This kid was also cunning. How could it be so easy to run away after killing someone? Instantly, they chased after him. They didn't think that Hui Yuhao would be able to escape from four-titled Douluo. For a moment, the empty space was silent. Only the three soul beasts in the distance were still a little dazed. They had just figured out that by sacrificing themselves to the human woman, they could at least save their lives. Who would have thought that the situation would change so suddenly? She was gone? How could they sacrifice? For a moment, the three soul beasts' heads were buzzing. They could only look at Wang Feng. At this moment, Wang Feng was still absorbing the soul ring's power. He was completely unaware of the situation outside. BB Don had approached him, and she did not even know. The cultivation of a million-year soul beast was too powerful. Furthermore, there were three soul bones. Two of the arm bones were already attached to Wang Feng's arms. These two arm bones were covered with faint scales and looked like dragon scale armor. They shone with a blood-red light and looked very cool. As this blood-red light nurtured him, Wang Feng's soul power started to increase rapidly, from rank 81 to rank 88. Finally, the reward of the second trial of the Sea God caused Wang Feng's soul power to stop at rank 89. In his sea of consciousness, after the white lotus matured, a portion of the million-year soul ring's power was quickly flowing into the chaotic green lotus. As the green light shone, the chaotic green lotus surfaced above Wang Feng's head. It exuded a mysterious aura. As it spun slightly, the chaotic green lotus seemed to nurture a mysterious power at the same time. The profound nether armor and the blood dragon armor that were attached to his chest quietly floated to the surface. The countless scales on the blood dragon armor suddenly disintegrated. Similar to the Xianming armor, the Xianming spike also turned into countless green lights. The Xianming armor was originally pitch black. However, after absorbing the 800,000-year soul ring on the Sea God's Island, the chaotic green lotus released a streak of chaotic divine light. Not only did it change Wang Feng's physique, but it also changed the Xianming armor. As a result, the armor turned green, and its power increased greatly. The blood dragon armor was actually very similar to the Xianming armor. This was because they were both formed from the countless scales on Long Xie's body. In terms of weight, they were not inferior to the Xianming armor. As an external soul bone from a million-year soul beast, its power was naturally even more terrifying. At this moment, the chaotic green lotus true body quickly turned into the cauldron of heaven and earth. In the next moment, the Xianming spike and blood dragon scales flew into the cauldron of heaven and earth. Wang Feng closed his eyes and absorbed them. His mind was immersed in this vast power. Naturally, he knew what was going on with the soul bones. For others, two external soul bones at the same location would be very troublesome. They would definitely have to give up one of them. However, for Wang Feng, the cauldron of heaven and earth meant that there were no soul bones that he couldn't fuse with. Wang Feng understood the cauldron control technique. He sat where he was, and streaks of energy struck the cauldron of heaven and earth. End of this chapter. Chapter 884. This method could ensure that the external soul bones could be fused and become stronger. Wang Feng planned to fuse them with the power of the million-year soul rings. The cauldron of heaven and earth started to spin rapidly. It seemed like a divine item was about to be born. Given Wang Feng's current abilities, it didn't take long for him to fuse them. The fusion of the two soul bones was complete. Suddenly, a streak of divine light shot out from the cauldron of heaven and earth and into the clouds. A set of scarlet-green armor slowly appeared. The moment it appeared, the air seemed to become much heavier. Under the immense pressure, it seemed like space was collapsing. Immediately after, the scarlet-green armor landed on Wang Feng's body. It stuck to his chest and was faintly discernible. Xianming blood dragon armor. It was a million-year external soul bone that had fused with the two external soul bones. The instant Wang Feng absorbed it, the enormous power shocked even Wang Feng. The Xianming blood dragon armor weighed at least 200,000 kilograms. Wang Feng didn't know the exact weight, but it was much heavier than the Sea God's trident. It was also very solid. At this moment, Wang Feng didn't even have time to feel the changes brought about by the million-year soul ring. The two soul bones and the newly fused Xianming blood dragon armor. Before Wang Feng could finish absorbing the power of the soul rings, he suddenly felt a huge wave of soul power sweep past him. Wang Feng was stunned. After a moment, Wang Feng opened his eyes. His surroundings were very quiet. It was as if nothing had happened. Following this, Wang Feng saw Bibi Dan, who was on the verge of death. His pupils shrank, and his mind went blank. What's going on? What's going on? Without hesitation, Wang Feng's figure flashed. He arrived in front of Bibi Dan and sensed it. He knew that Bibi Dan was going to die at this moment. Wang Feng was stunned. Someone attacked me? Wang Feng thought to himself. There was such a strong battle in this place. Who would dare to attack BB Don in such a place? Also, why did they attack BB Don and not him? At this moment, Bibidon's eyes seemed to have lost their color and spirit. Countless cracks appeared all over his body. He looked like he was about to break. Is it Xiao San? Wang Feng sensed the aura of the Neptune's trident on Bibidon's chest and guessed what had happened. After all, BB Don was a powerhouse who was half a step away from becoming a god-tier powerhouse. Tang San's attack was not enough to instantly kill BB Don. But now, the BB Don was in a very bad state. More than half of her body had been devoured by Gone Without Return, which contained the light of the sea god. Coupled with the fact that she was in a weakened state, the deity position that she had yet to inherit would slowly be annihilated under this attack. Naturally, she would not be able to keep her life. The only reason she was still alive was because of the Rakshasa god's divine power. She was barely able to withstand the light of the sea god. His body was shattered, his godly power was weakened, and even his godly aura was starting to weaken. Seeing this, Wang Feng stared at the BB Don. Vaguely, she moved her hand and pointed at Wang Feng. No one knew what he meant. Wang Feng was suddenly at a loss. If BB Don died just like that, did it mean that it would be very easy for him to be the last to punch in? This world was about to come to an end. His greatest threat and enemy would also disappear. He should be able to smoothly cultivate to level 90. How difficult would it be to punch in? He didn't even need to do anything. He just needed to watch and do nothing. BB Don would naturally die. If she died, it would seem that everything was over. But would he do that? Reason told Wang Feng that maybe it was right to not do anything. But humans were not rational. They had emotions. Not to mention humans, even gods had emotions. Wang Feng sighed softly and looked at the BB Don. It was a little troublesome for Wang Feng to save the BB Don, but it was not impossible. After all, BB Don was a demigod powerhouse. No one in this world could save her in this state of broken body and scattered godly power, unless a true god descended. Wang Feng was not a true god, but he still had a way to save her. After thinking for a long time, if BB Don did not help to subdue the evil dragon today, then, even if she had fallen in front of him, Wang Feng felt that he might not have saved her. But after the battle with the evil dragon, he could not just ignore it. If BB Don had not appeared in the God Binding Scale cage and bought him time, he would have died. Wang Feng's current situation would not have been any better. Even if her life was not in danger, she would have escaped with serious injuries. In that instant, Wang Feng seemed to think of many things. In the end, his consciousness and gaze focused on the BB Don. He did not hesitate. The golden lotus in Wang Feng's hand spun. A rainbow-like ray of golden light fell on the Bibidon's body. At level 89, Wang Feng's golden lotus had reached an extremely powerful level. The moment this mellow golden light covered BB Don's entire body, her broken body immediately stopped bleeding. The light of the sea god in the center of the hole gradually disappeared under the golden lotus light. But just stopping the bleeding wasn't enough. This was the light of the sea god, a true godly power. With the golden lotus current ability, it was already very powerful to be able to slowly disperse the destructive power of the light of the sea god. If it were any other healing type soul master, even a titled Dalu, they would not be able to do anything. A godly power was not something that soul masters could resist. However, Wang Feng's golden lotus alone was not enough to save the BB Don. She would still die, but it would be a slower death. The golden lotus could protect her heart. Just like De Ming and Er Ming, it was impossible for the golden lotus to instantly revive a person, let alone a demigod. Life forms were too advanced. Wang Feng was only level 89, and the golden lotus was only in the form of his martial soul. It was still not at the level where it could easily heal a demigod powerhouse back to their original state. Chaotic green lotus, Wang Feng shouted. He infused his spiritual power into the chaotic green lotus above his head. It moved slowly until it finally landed on the Bibidon's body. This was one of the keys to saving the BB Don. When he was level 80 and absorbed an 800,000-year soul ring, his martial soul true body was awakened. After absorbing the 800,000-year soul ring, it gave him a streak of chaotic divine light. Under that streak of chaotic divine light, Wang Feng's body underwent a fundamental change. That was a change in his potential. It was one of the fundamental reasons why he could fight a demigod. With that streak of chaotic divine light, Wang Feng was greatly improved in the Furious Wave's desperate realm. All this while, Wang Feng had been thinking about how the chaotic divine light was released. But just now, Wang Feng had a rough idea. After the Green Lotus awakened its martial soul true body, the chaotic divine light should be given to him after absorbing a soul ring every 10 ranks. End of chapter. Chapter 885. The chaotic Green Lotus had absorbed part of the million-year soul ring earlier, so it had been emitting chaotic divine light. If the soul power hadn't awakened him, Wang Feng would have been bathed in the chaotic divine light by now. The chaotic divine light is nourished by the chaotic Green Lotus. The golden lotus is protecting Bibidan's heart. With the chaotic divine light, she should be able to come back to life. But her body is already broken. Wang Feng looked at the 3 soul beasts in the distance. Long Xie jumped out of Wang Feng's soul ring and turned into a shadow. He looked at Bibidan and clicked his tongue. Her body is broken, and her godly aura is almost gone. That means she's no longer qualified to inherit the godhead throne. That move is also a divine skill. If she wasn't a demigod, she would have died instantly. Boss, do you still want to save her? I advise you not to think about it. Even a true god might not be able to save her. It's already incredible that you were able to keep her alive until her last breath. Long Xie turned into a blood-red shadow and glanced at Bibidan. Then, he looked at the chaotic Green Lotus. There was a hint of fear in his eyes. Even though it had become Wang Feng's soul ring, he didn't know what kind of martial soul it would be. How could it emit such an aura? A true god? Wang Feng laughed. How can trash like that compare to me? Long Xie, boss, you're the best at bragging. Long Xie said with a smile. But that's true. Trash like a true god isn't qualified for me to become a soul ring. Wang Feng cut the crap. Let the 3 soul beasts come over and sacrifice them. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. Long Xie was stunned. Boss, her body is so weak now. Even if we sacrifice them, she can't bear the power of 300,000-year soul beasts. If you want her to die, just say it. Long Xie was right. Bibidan's body was broken. She couldn't bear the sacrifice of 3 soul beasts. The most important thing was that Bibidan couldn't absorb the power of the 3 soul beast sacrifice to recover. She couldn't even use the Rakshasa demon-side's power because she couldn't even lift it in her current state. In addition, the god aura on his body had disappeared, so he could no longer use the Rakshasa demon scythe. Her consciousness was also on the verge of dissipating. I have my ways, Wang Feng said calmly. Since the primal chaos divine light could only be used once, Wang Feng was not sure how much power it could unleash this time. However, he could definitely wake up Bibidan and restore it to its original state. After that, he would borrow the power of the 3 soul beasts to repair Bibidan's broken body. Although Bibidan couldn't absorb it, Wang Feng could use the karmic fire of the Red Lotus to consume the soul power from the 3 soul beasts to refine and repair her body. She did not need to absorb it. However, the pain involved might be a little exaggerated. However, Wang Feng felt that with Bibidan's willpower, it wouldn't be difficult for him to pull through. Speaking of the karma that Bibidan had shouldered, it was perhaps extraordinarily strong. However, Bibidan was the first villain of the original novel. Without Tang San, she was the original protagonist of the original novel. With the soul power from the 3 soul beasts, she might be able to do it. This might be the only way to save Bibidan. Wang Feng wasn't confident if he lacked any link, because the conditions were too harsh. The primal chaos divine light could only absorb the soul ring once. If Wang Feng went through the baptism of the primal chaos divine light, Wang Feng's 6 soul bones might have a chance to fuse into one. Even if it wasn't a god equipment, it would still be powerful to a certain extent. After training and developing his own potential, Wang Feng was confident that he could defeat a God-rank powerhouse. Unfortunately, he encountered such a situation. Perhaps there were gains and losses. Long Xie's sacrifice, a million-year soul ring, 3 soul bones, and 2 external soul bones fused together. Just any one of these was an unimaginable opportunity for others. However, he lost the primal chaos divine light after obtaining these. He didn't regret it. Wang Feng didn't want to have any regrets. There was more to the primal chaos divine light. However, if he died, there would be nothing left. Long Xie didn't say anything when he saw Wang Feng's unyielding attitude. He let the 3 soul beasts walk over and surround the 2 of them in a triangular formation. The 3 soul beasts looked at each other, but they didn't hesitate. Or rather, they had no choice. 300,000-year soul rings rose from the 3 soul beasts. These soul rings were blood-black. The moment they landed on Bibidon's body, the 3 soul rings formed a majestic energy. Under the 3 soul beasts' control, they slowly covered Bibidon's body. Wang Feng spun the red lotus in his hand as he shouted. In an instant, the red lotus suddenly expanded. Endless karmic fire burned the void. There was no heat, but the 3 soul beasts were terrified. If the karmic fire landed on them, they would be burned into nothingness. These flames, Long Xie narrowed his eyes. He had experienced it before. Given his life form, he wasn't afraid. Although he had absorbed the evil thoughts of many soul beasts, he had cultivated them. They weren't his own karmic fire. On the contrary, he had shouldered some of the karmic fire from many soul beasts. In addition, he had spent most of his time cultivating and resisting the heavenly tribulation. After going through several heavenly tribulations, his soul was very pure. Therefore, the karmic fire of the red lotus didn't have much effect on him. However, Long Xie could sense that these were flames. Even a god couldn't avoid them. However, if a god was strong enough, the flames wouldn't be fatal. At this moment, as the red lotus grew bigger, Bibidon's body slowly floated onto the red lotus pedestal. Countless karmic fire of the red lotus burned. It formed a fiery-colored lotus that enveloped Bibidon. Long Xie couldn't sense what was going on inside. He could only see the 3 soul beasts sacrificing their life force and pouring it into the lotus. Wang Feng's expression turned serious. His soul power was quickly draining away. Back then, he had spent a lot of effort to refine his body. Now, he had to use the karmic fire of the red lotus to refine Bibidon's body. He would need a lot more time. Wang Feng wasn't sure what would happen. Long Xie burrowed into Wang Feng's soul ring and activated it so that Wang Feng's soul power could circulate even faster. The karmic fire of the red lotus burned fiercely. The 3 streams of energy were so condensed that they looked like 3 long rivers pouring into the lotus shield. At the same time, the chaotic green lotus shone brightly at the top of the lotus. The green light slowly entered the red lotus. Inside, Wang Feng's eyes were like fireflies. He stared at everything inside the lotus as he poured his soul power into the red lotus. The flames burned brighter. End of chapter. Chapter 886. He could sense everything inside, as he was the one who controlled the karmic fire of the red lotus. Inside the lotus shield, the terrifying karmic fire of the red lotus burned every inch of Bibidon's body. However, it did not cause any harm to her. Instead, it caused her body to emit streaks of red light as it was being refined. The energy from the 3 soul beast sacrifice also surged into Bibidon's body. At the same time, the chaotic divine light fell from the top and landed on Bibidon's body. In an instant, the hole in the center was being restored at a speed visible to the naked eye. The power of the chaotic divine light was obvious. It was being refined and restored at the same time. Wang Feng's current situation was also special. Even a deity might not be able to do this. Wang Feng could sense every inch of her body through the karmic fire of the red lotus. Painful moans came from Bibidon's mouth. She seemed to have recovered to a certain extent, and gradually regained consciousness. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus had just begun to burn her soul. Through the burning of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, Wang Feng completely understood Bibidin's experience. It was different from when he entered the secret realm. At that time, Wang Feng only saw the evilest side of Bibidin's heart and what she had experienced. When Wang Feng used the karmic fire of the Red Lotus to refine her body, all the scenes from his previous life flashed through his mind. Then, under the burning of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, they turned into smoke. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus would burn away all the karma and resentment brought about by those experiences. It burned even more cleanly than when Bibidon broke through her inner demons in the 8th examination. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus slowly burned through every inch of Bibidin's body. Wang Feng did not dare to refine her brain. It was too dangerous, and Bibidon was not in her best condition. Refining the brain was very difficult. It was not something that could be overcome by just suffering. Back in the northernmost land, Wang Feng had only succeeded in refining it with the help of the myriad soul's ice heart, the frigid ice spirit cavern in the nature manifestation valley, the unique terrain, and his adaptation to the Red Lotus fire. Wang Feng did not dare to refine Bibidin's head directly. He only dared to temper the area below the brain. Bibidin's clothes had long since been burned to ashes. Every inch of his skin that had been cut off was being refined by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, the sacrificial power of the 3 soul beasts, and the primal chaos divine light. With the passage of time, every inch was filled with a sparkling and translucent luster. At this moment, Wang Feng was not in the mood to admire this natural body that had been tempered by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. He needed to control the Red Lotus hellfire and carefully sense its limits. At the same time, he had to channel his soul power into the Red Lotus, which was extremely taxing on his soul power and spiritual power. After absorbing Long Xie's soul ring, Wang Feng's spiritual power had condensed into a semi-solid state. He was much stronger than before, but even so, the consumption of spiritual power was extremely fast. The Red Lotus hellfire burned from bottom to top. 9 soul rings shone from Bibidin's body. A purplish-black shadow appeared on Bibidin's body. That was Bibidin's Luosha godhood. When Tang San's spear struck Bibidin's body, the Luosha godhood had gradually disappeared. But it was condensing now. Wang Fengxin was shocked when he saw this. At the same time, countless memories in Bibidin's mind were burned away by the Red Lotus hellfire. In addition, her body had been refined and was shining with a luster. In addition, the 3 soul beasts had been sacrificed, and the 3 soul rings had been added to Bibidin's body. This allowed Bibidon to condense the true Luosha godhood. Does this mean that she has passed the 9th test? Wang Fengxin was shocked. He had wanted to save Bibidon, but it seemed like he had gone too far. No, it's not enough, Wang Feng muttered. The power of the 3 soul beasts had been used by Wang Feng to refine and repair Bibidin's body. Her broken body had healed and become stronger. But it wasn't enough for Bibidon to break through to rank 100. After all, it took a lot of energy to refine and repair Bibidin's body. This was also why Wang Feng couldn't use his golden lotus to instantly heal Bibidon. It was the same for the chaotic divine light. From the situation just now, with the help of the chaotic divine light, Bibidon's body's potential should have become stronger. If Bibidon could unleash all of this potential, it would be very easy for her to reach rank 100. She was already a demigod who had surpassed rank 99. The strangest thing was that the purplish-black shadow was also tainted with a faint green glow. It had an additional aura of chaos. At this moment, Bibidon's eyes suddenly opened. Her purplish-black eyes were flowing with a soul-stirring light. In an instant, a majestic aura was released from her body. The purplish-black shadow that was tainted with a green glow roared. It broke the lotus barrier. Wang Feng's expression changed, and he was flung back. The red lotus instantly dissipated, and the chaotic green lotus also returned to Wang Feng's body. That terrifying aura caused Wang Feng, who had expended more than half of his soul power and spiritual power, to bleed. Bibidon's body was shining with a crystal-like luster. Every part of her was beautiful. Right now, she looked a little younger. Her beautiful face was also flowing with a layer of inviolable dignity and nobility. The black scythe mark between her eyebrows was more solid, but there was an additional green glow on it. She was expressionless, and her gaze was calm. She took out a long robe from the soul tool at her fingertips. She covered her body, which was so beautiful that it could drive all living things crazy. At this moment, the 3 soul beasts had disappeared. Only 3 soul bones were left floating in midair. But Bibi Don didn't look at them. She just stared at Wang Feng. She had been feeling it from the beginning to the end. She felt the pain brought by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus very clearly. The karmic fire of the Red Lotus burned away her past experiences and all kinds of emotions and resentments, making her feel very relaxed. Her mind was clear, as if she had been reborn. At this moment, this body that was full of life and seemed to be in harmony with the surrounding heaven and earth gave her a new feeling. Even bearing the power of the Rakshasa deity didn't make Bibi Don feel more relaxed and comfortable. However, at this moment, Bibi Don looked calmly at Wang Feng, who was wiping his mouth in the distance. "Why did you spend so much effort to save me?" Bibi Don put her hands behind her back. Her clear voice didn't sound cold, but it was a little cold. "Isn't it better for you to let me die? Do you know what kind of me you have created? I can kill you easily now. Why did you save me?" Wang Feng looked at Bibi Don. After the body and soul were tempered by the karmic fire of the Red Lotus, she seemed to have changed. "Do you think I will agree with you just because of this?" Bibi Don looked at the silent Wang Feng. Her hands behind her back suddenly clenched. Her voice suddenly became louder. "Why did you save me?" Bibidon's eyes exuded an increasingly cold aura. She turned around. Her back was facing Wang Feng, but her eyes were misty. "You shouldn't have saved me." Chapter 887. Why do you talk so much nonsense? Wang Feng frowned. "You saved me once just now, and I saved you once. We're even." "Impossible." However, Bibi Don turned around, and the mist in her eyes evaporated instantly. She looked at Wang Feng coldly. "Impossible. You don't know what this means." After saying that, Bibidon's figure flashed and appeared in front of Wang Feng. Their auras were extremely compatible at this time. However, Wang Feng was much stronger than Bibi Don because he was in the complete form after being tempered by the Red Lotus Hellfire. The fusion of their auras made Bibidon's breathing a little faster. Her palm sucked, and the huge Rakshasa demon, Scythe, appeared in her hand. It emitted a cold light and pointed at Wang Feng. "Why? Do you really think you can kill me?" Wang Feng asked curiously. Although he had consumed more than half of his soul power and was in a dry state, his spiritual power was almost exhausted. But if he wanted to leave, it would be easy. Bibi Don did not answer. She just stared at Wang Feng and then walked toward Wang Feng step by step. With every step she took, the Rakshasa demon scythe in her hand trembled slightly, as if she was struggling in her heart. When she was 2 or 3 meters away from Wang Feng, the Rakshasa demon scythe suddenly fell to the ground. Then, Bibi Don tiptoed, and her figure flashed again. Suddenly, she appeared in front of Wang Feng. She tiptoed slightly and kissed him. Wang Feng was stunned. However, the moment her lips touched Wang Feng, in less than 2 seconds, she sent Wang Feng flying with a single palm strike. Wang Feng, Bibi Don picked up the Rakshasa demon scythe on the ground and immediately turned around. She waved her hand and stopped the 3 soul bones. Her originally cold voice trembled a little. "Wang Wu, 1 year later, I will become a god. The continent will be unified. If you can defeat me at that time, I will. I will agree with your idea. If you can't defeat me, don't even think about it. At that time, everything will be controlled by me, Bibi Don. You have no right to choose. As for that Tang San, for your sake, I will spare his life for the time being. Goodbye." His slightly trembling voice disappeared into the horizon. Wang Feng touched the warmth on his lips and was momentarily speechless. Of course, he knew what Bibi Don meant. "Oh ho!" At this moment, Long Xie suddenly jumped out and clicked his tongue. "Boss, You're quite lucky with women. What a pity, what a pity. Look at how busy you are. You didn't get anything. Are you still looking forward to her throwing herself into your arms and offering herself to you after you save her? Wang Feng shook his head. What kind of joke was this? That was a BB Dawn. He wanted her to throw herself into his arms? I didn't lose anything. Wang Feng shook his head. Those 3 soul beasts were meant to be sacrificed to him. At most, I will be weak for a while. The only thing he had truly lost was the chaotic divine light. However, the chaotic divine light was indeed extraordinary. But in the end, BB Dawn kissed him. This was something that Wang Feng had never expected. Could it be that she had taken a fancy to him? Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. He'd always thought that Bibidan's feelings for him were more of admiration than anything else. He also thought that BB Dawn treated him as a close friend. But it didn't seem that simple. Could it be that my charm has already reached such a level? Even a first villain of the original novel is charmed by me? Wang Feng looked up at the sky and sighed. Boss, this human woman didn't seem to want to live at first. Long Xia looked into the distance. When she was pierced by that divine skill, she wanted to die. But after she was saved, not only did her body reform, even her thoughts changed. And boss, Long Xia hesitated for a moment. From my experience, this human woman's godhood might have changed as well. Perhaps it's not that simple. You're in trouble. Listen to what he's saying. Boss, if you can't defeat her in a year, you'll become her exclusive property. Long Xia couldn't help but laugh. Although he had been alive most of the time, he had absorbed a lot of evil thoughts and sensed a lot of emotions. He had a thorough understanding of them. Of course, he knew what BB Dawn was implying. Wang Feng thought about what BB Dawn had said. Do you know what kind of person you've created? Could it be that BB Dawn's deity position had changed? The chaotic divine light could increase a person's potential. Did it affect his godhood as well? If that was the case, it would be troublesome. He was now at 89, but his soul power felt like it had been fixed. The amount of soul power he needed to reach rank 90 was terrifying enough to make Wang Feng's scalp tingle. Unless he sacrificed a million-year soul beast. Forget it. That was just daydreaming. Wang Feng could crush a demigod now. He didn't even need Bibidan's help to defeat Long Xia. However, Bibidan's strength had reached an even more ridiculous level. He could even kill Long Xia. BB Dawn said that a year was still a long time. Wang Feng estimated that BB Dawn would become a god in 2 to 3 months. At the latest, half a year. Wang Feng was still some distance away from a true god. He couldn't compare to a true god with a godhood. True gods were indeed powerful. As Long Xia had said, he would be easily annihilated by a true god. Therefore, he wouldn't appear on the continent to avoid attracting the attention of a god. Terrible? Wang Feng smiled. Let's see. Boss, you're very confident. Your soul power is different from all the soul masters I've seen. Long Xia pondered. It's very difficult to increase it. My million-year soul ring only increased by 8 ranks. It's unbelievable. If it were any other soul master, I could give them 2 soul rings. They wouldn't be able to take one. But you're at rank 90. I can't give you 2 soul rings. By the way, Tian only has 800,000 years in the Great Star Dough Forest. If he becomes your 9th soul ring, you won't be able to defeat that human woman who's become a god. Long Xia seemed to think of something. She's the only one in the Great Star Dough Forest who can compare to me. However, she's still asleep. I can't find her exact location. Even if you kill her, you won't be able to fully absorb her soul. You're also my nemesis. Otherwise, I wouldn't have sacrificed her to you. Long Xia shook his head. There's one more question. Boss, you're so strong. Why didn't a god choose you? Are those gods blind? Wang Fengxin thought to himself. They weren't blind. I didn't choose her. In addition, the dark angel martial soul had absorbed all of their power. Wang Fengxin thought of something. Is it time to add a soul ring to the dark angel martial soul? P.S. Everyone, it's time to vote. There are 5 more chapters tonight. In a chapter. Chapter 888. With Wang Feng's current physical condition, he could naturally bear adding soul rings to his second martial soul. However, it was very difficult to add soul rings to his first martial soul. The difficulty of adding soul rings to his second martial soul was probably not small. This difficulty was not reflected in killing soul beasts, but in finding soul beasts. There were not many powerful soul beasts in the current Douluo world. If his second martial soul ring was only 10,000 year, it would not be very helpful to Wang Feng. It would need at least 100,000 year soul rings, or close to that, for the improvement to be obvious. If his dark angel martial soul could have all red soul rings, Wang Feng would be able to defeat God-ranked experts easily. However, he could not find so many soul beasts. At the same time, he had to consider whether his dark angel martial soul could absorb them. As for the Pangu axe, Wang Feng did not consider it for now. Whether it was the dark angel martial soul or the chaotic green lotus, Wang Feng was cultivating and becoming stronger. The dark angel martial soul's 7 blood patterns and the chaotic green lotus could transform into various forms. The former relied on absorbing various emotional energies and part of the power of gods. Once it was activated, it could increase one's attributes by more than 10 times. The chaotic green lotus relied on the rules of the Douluo world to cultivate soul rings and evolve into various forms. However, Wang Feng had never cultivated the Pangu axe. In fact, Wang Feng knew about the Pangu axe's abilities. However, he was not sure how to truly control it. It was different from the chaotic green lotus. As the origin of all things, it could transform into various forms through cultivation. As it became stronger, Wang Feng could control it firmly. Even at rank 89, Wang Feng did not dare to say that he could completely control the Pangu axe. This might be because he did not add soul rings to the Pangu axe. However, Wang Feng suspected that the Pangu axe would not accept ordinary soul rings. Wang Feng sometimes guessed that if he wanted to become a god, he would have to add soul rings to all 3 of his martial souls. Wang Feng could not imagine how difficult it would be. The chaotic green lotus was the strongest and had the best compatibility. It was the most comfortable to add soul rings to it. Wang Feng could understand that it did not reject any of his martial souls. However, the other 2 martial souls, especially the Pangu axe, as he thought of this, Wang Feng and Long Xie stayed in the Great Star Do Forest for a few days. He planned to search for it. The Great Star Do Forest was very large, but many soul beasts had gone into hiding, perhaps because the battle with Long Xie had caused too much commotion. Wang Feng had absorbed Long Xie's soul ring. Long Xie was an evil spirit that lived off of the Great Star Do Forest. According to the history revealed by Long Xie and Wang Feng, he had been living in the Great Star Do Forest for a very, very long time. When he was born, there weren't so many soul beasts on this continent. At that time, there weren't even soul masters. Long Xie didn't want to talk about his background, so Wang Feng didn't ask. However, if a single strand of evil intent was able to produce the evil dragon and absorb the evil intent of all the soul beasts in the Great Star Do Forest, then it was obvious that this was the evil intent of an ancestor of soul beasts. No matter what, Wang Feng believed that Long Xie would tell him one day. After absorbing his soul ring, Wang Feng also obtained Long Xie's ability to absorb the evil intent of soul beasts. This wasn't a soul skill. It was the power Long Xie had bestowed upon Wang Feng. A million-year soul ring was beyond the realm of ordinary soul beasts. It was almost untouchable. Every million-year soul beast was one of a kind. It was no longer possible to measure the value of a soul skill just by using a soul skill. Furthermore, no one in the history of the Douluo world had managed to obtain a million-year soul beast, at least according to Wang Feng's understanding of it. Not to mention, it was a sacrifice. Actually, my subordinates captured those 2 soul beasts and brought them here. They didn't want to harm them. Long Xie floated around Wang Feng and sighed. You have to know that the evil intent I absorbed from those soul beasts is very beneficial to the cultivation of many soul beasts. Those 4 evil soul beasts were like that. They killed too many soul beasts in the past. Every step they took, they would be obstructed by countless evil intents. These evil intents will become one of the obstacles in their way to overcome their heavenly tribulations. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Everyone would have evil intents. If his body hadn't been tempered by the red lotus karmic fire, he would have encountered all sorts of evil intents on his path of cultivation. Furthermore, why would there be more bottlenecks and difficulties as one progressed? Those geniuses who were born with a clear mind and a unique state of mind could cultivate very quickly. That was because their bodies were special and their minds were focused. They almost didn't have any evil intents. Of course, that was only one of the reasons. However, it did affect the cultivation of soul masters. It wasn't just soul masters. It was the same for all living beings who cultivated, absorbed most of the evil intents in their bodies. This can increase their cultivation speed and make it easier for them to overcome their heavenly tribulations. Long Xie said, "But when the water is full, it will overflow. When a moon is full, it will fall. I've already reached my limit. Furthermore, I can't become a true god. If I keep absorbing evil intents, I'll be in danger. That's why I need 2 soul beasts with less evil intents and pure auras to counteract my evil intents." Actually, this is a good thing for those 2 soul beasts. Because they've been with me for a long time, their cultivation has increased very quickly. It's a pity, now that you have my soul ring, you can easily absorb the evil intents of all kinds of soul beasts. The scariest thing is that you're not affected by the evil intents. Your body exudes an extremely pure aura. Even if you don't absorb their evil intents, many soul beasts will acknowledge you. They'll even be willing to stay with you. The longer they stay with you, the more their evil intents will be suppressed by your aura. Now that you can absorb the evil intents of soul beasts, boss, why don't you rebel against humans and become the king of soul beasts? Long Xie chuckled at this point. Wang Feng laughed. How is that possible? In fact, Wang Feng's golden lotus could make soul beasts evolve even if he didn't absorb their evil intents. That was even more terrifying. Long Xie didn't know that yet. However, he could absorb the evil intents of soul beasts. Wang Feng was very sensitive to soul beasts. He was able to find many powerful soul beasts with his golden lotus. At the same time, Wang Feng discovered the strongest ability of his million-year soul ring. It wasn't a soul skill, because Wang Feng could absorb the evil intents of soul beasts. This meant that his 9th soul ring could be increased by absorbing their evil intents. Chapter 889. The first time he discovered this ability was on the 2nd day. Wang Feng was resting. At the same time, he was absorbing the evil intents of countless soul beasts in the great Star Do forest. He wanted to use this opportunity to find a suitable soul beast to test his soul ring. After that, he realized that the evil intents he absorbed were fusing into Long Xie's 9th soul ring. As the energy flowed through the soul ring, it gradually grew stronger. Although it was very subtle, Wang Feng could still sense it. He asked Long Xie about it earlier. Long Xie didn't have any experience when it was his first time becoming a 100-year soul ring. Naturally, he didn't know what was going on. He only knew that Wang Feng would become stronger when he absorbed the evil intents of soul beasts. Therefore, Wang Feng understood that his 9th soul ring had a certain potential for growth. As for how much it could grow, Wang Feng wasn't sure. It might take a long time for it to show. With the help of his ability to absorb evil intents, Wang Feng found several soul beasts in the great Star Do forest. However, he only found 1 or 2 10,000-year soul beasts. There were 2 few 100,000-year soul beasts. These 10,000-year soul beasts were all corpses. They died naturally in battle, and his soul ring could absorb them directly. In the core region of the great Star Do forest, battles occurred frequently. It was just like the human world. Different soul beasts belonged to different factions. Before they were unified, there would be all sorts of battles and deaths. However, Wang Feng tried, and realized that his dark angel couldn't absorb soul rings. When he gave it his first soul ring, there was a strong repulsion. The power of 7 blood patterns couldn't absorb soul rings at all. This meant that he couldn't give his second martial soul a soul ring. Wang Feng didn't understand the reason. After a few attempts, he still couldn't absorb soul rings. Wang Feng even subdued a soul beast and sacrificed it to him. For other soul cultivators, it was almost impossible for them to sacrifice soul beasts to another soul cultivator. However, it might be difficult for Wang Feng to do so. 10,000-year soul beasts were too easy. However, he couldn't even absorb a 10,000-year soul ring. Wang Feng wasn't sure about a 100,000-year soul ring, but he couldn't find one anytime soon. A 100,000-year soul beast was too smart. It was probably hiding somewhere. It wasn't easy to find one. After searching for a few days, Wang Feng gave up. His dark angel couldn't give him soul rings for now. The power of 7 blood patterns had reached a bottleneck. Even his dark angel was like this, let alone Panga's axe. In the end, the primal chaos green lotus was still better. It could derive all things, regardless of flesh and blood, and could turn everything into its own power. His second martial soul couldn't bestow a soul ring, which meant that it was impossible for Wang Feng to use his second martial soul to greatly improve himself in a year. Then, if he cultivated to level 90 like this, with Bibidon's strength, he might not be able to beat him. He could now crush demigods, but against gods. Even if he cultivated to level 90, he would only have a 60% chance of winning. Bibidon, on the other hand, was different. Her body had been tempered by the red lotus karmic fire and the primal chaos divine light. Wang Feng did not know how powerful she would become after she became a god. Wang Feng didn't want to be defeated. As long as I can achieve these 3 points, I should be able to defeat Bibidon. Wang Feng had a clear understanding of himself. The first step was to find a soul beast with its 9th soul ring. Wang Feng didn't ask for a 1,000,000-year soul beast. He would be satisfied with a soul beast of 8 to 900,000 years. But even after 8 to 900,000 years, it was still hard to find. With Wang Feng's current strength, defeating the deep-sea demon whale in the sea was a piece of cake. But if he wanted to kill it or make its sacrifice, it would be too difficult. Furthermore, this soul beast should be given to Tang San. There wasn't one in the Great Star Do Forest for now. Ditian could do it, but Long Xie was just bragging earlier. He didn't know where a soul beast of Ditian's level was. Furthermore, the evil thoughts of a soul beast of Ditian's level wouldn't be absorbed by Long Xie. Long Xie knew that Ditian was in the Great Star Do Forest because he had known for a long time. He was the first one to land in the Great Star Do Forest. Later on, Long Xie said that a huge battle had broken out in the God Realm, which was in the upper levels of the Douluo world. However, many descendants of the Dragon Clan who possessed the bloodline of the true Dragon Clan had landed on this continent. Some of them had perished, while others had hidden to recover. Ditian was one of the purest descendants of dragons. In terms of seniority, Ditian should call me uncle, Long Xie said proudly. Among all the descendants of dragons, he is the one with the purest bloodline, apart from those 11. His element is darkness, so evil thoughts don't have much of an effect on him. Hearing this, Wang Feng was a little surprised as he looked at Long Xie. This pretentious dragon seems to be of high seniority. No wonder he didn't care about Ditian from the start. However, this fellow is very arrogant. Even if you can restrain him, he won't submit to a human. He should be cultivating somewhere in the Great Star Do Forest. Boss, if you want him to become your soul ring, I'm afraid you won't be able to do it anytime soon. Long Xie continued. The Great Star Do Forest is too big. I've been cultivating all these years, so I don't know where he is. I wanted to find this fellow and kill him when I came out. At the very least, I wanted to beat him up. Hearing this, Wang Feng was a little surprised. You're also a descendant of dragons. According to you, you're also his uncle. Why do you want to kill him? Long Xie sneered and said, Don't worry. Although I'm a descendant of dragons, I've been disliked by all dragons since I was born. Those pure-blooded descendants of true dragons don't think highly of me. They think I'm trash that has been abandoned. I don't have a pure bloodline, so I can't cultivate for 1,000,000 years. After all, they're all soul beasts that surpass 1,000,000 years. It's a pity that those who looked down on me were all killed by the gods in the end. On the other hand, I'm living well, cough cough. All right? I was going to die anyway. Tion's father is one of the 11 that possess the bloodline of true dragons. He also possesses an extremely pure dragon bloodline. Apart from those 11, he's the purest descendant in terms of bloodline. Back then, his ancestor, the dragon god, even gave him some good stuff. He's very important to him. At this point, Long Xie couldn't help but laugh. What a pity. He's a prodigy of the dragons. Even the dragon god thinks highly of him. However, he can't compare to me, an evil thought that's been abandoned by the dragons. Based on my estimation, his cultivation is at most 800,000 years. It won't exceed that number, but I'm already 1,000,000 years old. All right, although I'm only a soul ring now, I feel that my future is very bright. After all, you're the only one that can defeat me in so many years. Although I didn't use my full strength, Wang Feng seemed to have learned a lot of secrets from Long Xie's words. For example, there was another dragon that was a little older than Tion. However, he was still recovering in an unknown place in the Great Douluo forest. Chapter 890. That bastard dragon god has already fallen. Long Xie looked up into the sky. But you might not know what the dragon god means. He's the ancestor of all dragons. He's the ancestor of countless soul beasts on this continent. He's stronger than a god. Unfortunately, he didn't want to die just like that. So he split his strength into two and created two clones. One of them is this dragon. However, he was injured by an extremely powerful god in the god realm when he created his clone. Since then, he's been recuperating. Long Xie shook his head and sighed. If the dragons and the dragon god thought highly of me, I'd be 1,000,000 years old. With my innate talent and intelligence, I'll be able to beat those gods if I become 1,000,000-year soul beast. However, an existence as powerful as me was viewed as trash by them. If it wasn't for the fact that I was abandoned and landed in this place, the divine realm would also be surnamed long by now. Wang Feng smiled at Long Xie. Most of what this pretentious dragon said was true. He was just too pretentious. In fact, if things had developed normally, he wouldn't have been able to break through the 9th tribulation. He wouldn't even be able to survive the 9th heavenly tribulation and would be reduced to ashes. However, he was abandoned here and could only absorb the evil thoughts of the soul beasts in the Great Douluo forest. If Long Xie had been given a better cultivation environment, he could have reached a higher level. If he had been protected, he could have become a monster. A better cultivation environment. If Wang Feng were the dragon god, he would have created a small world and placed a bunch of evil soul beasts in it. He would have let them fight and kill each other every day. Countless evil thoughts would have been generated. Long Xie could have cultivated and increased his fighting strength. It wouldn't have been difficult to nurture him. He probably wouldn't have been able to become his soul ring. After listening to Long Xie's explanation, Wang Feng learned a lot more about this guy. However, Long Xie still wasn't willing to tell him how he was born. If I can't find one in the Great Douluo forest, I'll go somewhere else. Wang Feng looked in the direction of the extreme north. His underlings were all there, so he knew the soul beasts there very well. If he couldn't find a suitable 9th soul ring, it would be very difficult to defeat Bibidon. The second condition was that he had to possess 6 soul bones. If he could fuse the soul bones into one and create a similar divine equipment, Wang Feng's strength would be greatly enhanced. However, the only thing Wang Feng knew was that the chaotic divine light could fuse soul bones. Thus, the problem was back to his 9th soul ring. Only after obtaining the 9th soul ring would the chaotic divine light appear again, cleanse one's self, fuse with the soul bone, and increase one's potential. The third condition was that one's spiritual power had reached its limit. The so-called limit was naturally to solidify this jelly-like spiritual power into a real solid. This way, Wang Feng's strength would also be greatly enhanced. Spiritual energy was now related to several of Wang Feng's powerful abilities. Xianming Blood Dragon Armor, 1,000,000 rank external attachment bone. The flying swords formed now were all greenish-red in color, and their power was already unimaginably great. Any soul beast below a million-year soul beast couldn't withstand the power of Wang Feng's imperial sword. In other words, even a rank 99 transcendent Dalu wouldn't be able to withstand Wang Feng's mysterious underworld flying sword. If Wang Feng could condense his spiritual power into a solid state, he would definitely be able to cause damage to a deity. And it wasn't just a normal attack. His spiritual power was also related to the chaotic 8 notes. At the same time, it was related to a powerful soul skill formed by the Xianming Blood Dragon armor. God-binding scale cage. That's right. A new soul skill had appeared on the Xianming Blood Dragon armor's million-year soul bone. It was Long Xie's powerful control-type soul skill. It could be said that it was the most powerful soul skill Wang Feng had ever seen. It covered a huge area, and it couldn't be broken. Even someone stronger than Long Xie wouldn't be able to break it in a short period of time. It was both offensive and defensive. The interior of the soul bone also contained powerful offensive abilities. As long as the exterior was attacked, the interior would also be attacked. After the fusion of the Xianming armor and the Blood Dragon armor, the external soul bone that was formed was extremely tough. It was also very heavy. Wang Feng estimated that it was at least 200,000 kilograms, and he had sensed it over the past 2 days. It should be around 250,000 kilograms. This weight was equivalent to 2 tridents. After condensing it into a piece of armor, Wang Feng could easily kill a large number of titled Dalu if he threw it out. Most importantly, because it was more compact after the fusion, Wang Feng could maintain the Xianming Blood Dragon armor at 1 to 2 meters long if he turned it into a flying sword. It didn't seem that big, but it was very unpredictable when it came to killing enemies. Therefore, Wang Feng's spiritual power was very important to his current abilities. The enhancement brought about by this million-year soul beast also made Wang Feng's body unbelievably strong. He used his strength in the most direct way. If he was in his best condition and unleashed his full strength, his strongest strength would be more than 1,000,000 times. Even a demigod would be severely injured with a single punch. The prerequisite was that he didn't focus on defense. Even if he wasn't in his best condition, Wang Feng's casual punch was still ridiculously strong. After one's strength reached a certain limit, it was very difficult to increase it further. It wasn't something that could be surpassed by soul skills. There was a limit to how much soul skills could increase one's strength. This limit was what one's body could withstand. It was also where one's potential lay. For example, if he gave someone he didn't use a 10-fold increase, the effect would be very different. Some people could unleash the full potential of this 10-fold increase in their attributes after a 10-fold increase. However, some people couldn't. This was because their body's potential wasn't enough for them to support such a strong force. Even if he was strengthened by another 20 times, his final outcome would most likely be his body exploding and he would die. Wang Feng's casual punch was more than 200,000 kilograms. According to Wang Feng's various soul skills, he could increase his physical strength by at least 40 times. However, Wang Feng's strength wasn't 40 times more than 200,000 kilograms. It was only about 1,000,000 kilograms. This was his limit. There were 2 reasons for this. The higher one's strength was, the harder it was to increase it. Just the increase in attributes from soul skills couldn't allow Wang Feng to unleash the same amount of strength. Another reason was that Wang Feng's body's potential wasn't enough to support such a strong force. Simply put, the increase was too much. For example, when he fought Long Xie earlier, his full-strength punch exceeded 250,000 kilograms. It was close to 800,000 kilograms. Even Long Xie couldn't resist it. That was the limit of Wang Feng's strength. This was something that Wang Feng had come to realize recently. After being cleansed by the first chaotic divine light, Wang Feng's potential increased tremendously. His limit was 500,000 heavy silver pillars. After that, it was difficult for him to increase it. The absorption of the million-year soul ring had also increased Wang Feng's body's potential, fundamentally changing this point. This changed Wang Feng's body's potential. His body's limit exceeded 250,000 kilograms. It was more than 1,000,000 kilograms. If that chaotic divine light had landed on his body, Wang Feng's potential would have reached another limit. This was because that was the chaotic divine light from the chaotic green lotus after absorbing the million-year soul ring. If Wang Feng had absorbed that chaotic divine light, he would have been able to withstand the increase. Chapter 891. When he used his full strength, his strength exceeded 500,000 kilograms. Even a god-tier powerhouse would be injured if he took a punch from Wang Feng. After absorbing the million-year soul ring, Wang Feng didn't immediately sense the changes in his body. He had been experimenting with his dark angel martial soul over the past few days. At the same time, he had been sensing the changes in his body. This was why he thought of 3 conditions to defeat BB Dawn. His 9th soul ring had to fuse with his soul bone and solidify his spiritual power. In essence, it was still the foundation of a soul master. After all, this was the Douluo world. Apart from that, Long Xie's 2 arm bones also gave Wang Feng 2 different powerful soul skills. The other 2 were passive soul skills. The soul skill given by the million-year soul ring was Long Xie's last move. It had severely injured the 2 of them. It was called the ultimate evil annihilation. The second condition was simple. The soul ring could transform into Long Xie. He had 90% of his previous abilities and could transform into a true dragon. Although there weren't many soul skills, the other abilities given by the million-year soul ring were stronger. Apart from the ability to absorb evil thoughts, it also gave Wang Feng a strong body. At the same time, the White Lotus abilities had changed greatly. These all needed time to be tested. After staying in the Great Star Do Forest for a few days, Wang Feng decided to leave temporarily. He wanted to return to Heaven Do City to see Ning Rongrong, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others. He wanted to tell them that he was safe. After that, he would head to the extreme north to cultivate for a year and search for his 9th soul ring. Judging from Bibidin's current situation, he probably wouldn't do anything rash for a while. He would focus on breaking through to the god tier. After a few days, Wang Feng returned to Heaven Do City. It had been so many years since Wang Feng stepped into this city. However, this city was now shrouded in a dark cloud. Deming and Erming must have been sacrificed to Little Three. Wang Feng sighed as he looked at the city. Perhaps this was the power of Little Three's world. It was difficult to change what belonged to him. However, it wouldn't be difficult for Little Three to be revived after Deming and Erming became god tier. As for Little Three's attack on BB Dong, Wang Feng could also understand. Tang Some must have thought that BB Dong was going to kill him. So he acted in time and lured the 4-titled Douluo away. He had just broken through, and he had used such a powerful skill. He must have expended a lot of energy. Even if he couldn't defeat those 4-titled Douluo, he should be able to escape unscathed. He was probably reviving Xiao Wu right now. Little Three had inherited the deity position of the sea god, and Xiao Wu's main body had also consumed 2 immortal herbs. With Little Three's strength, it wouldn't be difficult for him to revive Little Wu in the ice fire Yinyang well. I wonder how they're doing. Wang Feng walked into the city and discovered that the once bustling Heaven Do City was now sparsely populated. A few years ago, there were still many soul cultivators on streets. But now, the number of soul cultivators on the streets had decreased by more than half. It seemed like the influence of the Martial Soul Alliance wasn't ordinary. That was because the Martial Soul Alliance hadn't started a war yet. There was only one possibility for the decrease in soul masters. Most of them had sought refuge in the cities under the Martial Soul Alliance's jurisdiction. The number of soul masters in the Heaven Do Empire's imperial city would be greatly reduced. The Martial Soul Temple in the center had been abandoned long ago. Without the Martial Soul Temple, it was very troublesome for the countless soul masters in the city to conduct soul master appraisals. It was even more troublesome to enter the soul hunting forest and hunt soul beasts. Most of them had gone to the Setting Sun Forest. The Heaven Do Empire had also organized and established the Heaven Do Sacred Hall, a special soul master organization. There were similar organizations around Heavendo City that could barely replace the Martial Soul Temple. However, this kind of organization required a large number of high-level soul masters to hold down the fort. It also required powerful soul masters and a legion of knights to guard it. They were in charge of the order of the soul masters in the city. These functions weren't something that ordinary soldiers could perform. It was a huge drain on the soul masters in the Heavendo Empire. Wang Feng walked around Heavendo City as he sensed the changes over the years. He was wearing the same attire as when he was 9 to 1. The 9 to 1 incident had happened a long time ago, so it wasn't very eye-catching. Not long after, Wang Feng arrived at the Shrek Academy. However, the Shrek Academy seemed a little empty at this moment. There weren't many disciples coming in and out. With Wang Feng's spiritual power, he couldn't sense the auras of any masters in the academy. They didn't seem to be here. Seeing this, Wang Fengxian's heart jumped. Where are they? Logically speaking, with the Martial Soul Alliance's advantage, they didn't start a war. The two empires couldn't find an excuse or reason to start a war. Now that the Shrek Academy was fully supported by the Heavendo Empire, where could they go if they weren't here? Wang Feng grabbed a student and asked him a few questions. Teachers? The teachers all brought the students to hunt soul beasts. Ever since the Martial Soul Alliance was established, many young soul masters joined our Shrek Academy. However, because there are too many young soul masters, the teachers are too busy. The student sighed and said, usually, teachers with more than 5 disciples are a threat. If it's in the soul hunting forest, it's not a big deal. However, if they enter the setting sun forest, their lives will be in danger. Because of this, several of our teachers have been seriously injured in the past few days. Also, without the soul hunting forest, the teachers of the Empire and the Academy led their teams into the setting sun forest and killed too many soul beasts. They even caused riots sometimes. Not only the teachers of the Shrek Academy, but the other academies of the Heavendo Empire and the struggling academies all suffered different degrees of losses. Hearing this, Wang Feng fell silent. There are 30 days in a month now. For half a month, the teachers are in the setting sun forest. The student continued. There's also the newly established Heavendo Sacred Hall. Some of the teachers of the Shrek Academy also joined to manage the Order of the Soul Masters in Heavendo City. 2 years ago, the people of the Martial Soul Temple all left Heavendo City. During those 2 years, the Order of the Soul Masters in Heavendo City fell into extreme chaos. There were often soul masters fighting in the city, and there were many casualties. This year, it's been a little better. However, the teachers of the Shrek Academy are all seriously injured. I don't know how long they can last. The Martial Soul Temple is too important to the order of the world of soul masters. Actually, I don't think it's a bad thing for the Academy and the Empire to join the Martial Soul Alliance. At the end, the student whispered, in the past, I could still receive a portion of gold soul coins from the Martial Soul Temple every month. Now, the Heavendo Sacred Hall doesn't have this practice. I just joined the Shrek Academy recently. I'm 18 years old and have just reached rank 30. It's been a long time, but I need to wait for the next batch of soul masters in a month and a half. Only then can I get a soul ring. The student shrugged. If it was in the past, I could still go to the soul hunting forest a few 100 kilometers away from Heavendo City and team up with my classmates to hunt soul beasts. But now we don't dare to go to the setting sun forest. As for the Great Stardow Forest, we don't dare to go there. After listening to this student, Wang Feng fell silent for a long time. Chapter 892. Indeed, BB Dawn could be said to have executed the 3-year alliance and 5-year empire plan perfectly. This student could be considered a representative of mid-tier and low-tier soul masters. As time passed, the Martial Soul Alliance's soul masters would become stronger and stronger. The stronger the soul masters were, the more they would be able to promote the development of various industries. Have you guys never thought of taking over the soul hunting forest? Wang Feng asked. We have. The student pursed his lips. A year ago, there were a few small-scale battles over the resources in the soul hunting forest. There were even titled Douluo involved in the battles. However, the soul hunting forest has been under the jurisdiction of the martial soul hall since ancient times. It's not right to take it by force. Furthermore, the martial soul hall's soul master teams guarding the soul hunting forest are very strong. They are at least soul Douluo and titled Douluo as witnesses. We can't take it, the student whispered. If you want to find teacher and the rest, you can only try your luck in the setting sun forest. Oh yes, a few of our famous seniors from the Shrek Academy returned a few days ago. I heard that they were planning to organize a group to take over the nearby soul hunting forests. I wonder how the situation is now. The Martial Soul Alliance has the most control over the soul hunting forest around Heaven-Do City. They even sent a few titled Douluo to guard the entrances. Previously, the Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo from the Seven Treasure Glaze Tile sect personally went to the Martial Soul Alliance to discuss, but they were chased out. Wang Feng guessed that the students he was talking about were Osk, Ma Hongjun, and Ning Rongrong. They were very strong now. Every one of them was a soul Douluo. They had improved so much in just 3 years. After returning and discovering the situation, they would definitely not sit back and do nothing. Through this student, the changes in the continent's forces could be said to be very clear. If this continued, there would only be one outcome. Either the two empires could no longer hold back and start a war with the Martial Soul Alliance, or they would die a slow death. In another year at most, the strength of the two empires would be greatly reduced due to this imbalance between the two empires. When BB Don became a god, he would kill the powerful individuals of the two empires and establish the Martial Soul Empire. He would then be able to absorb the powers of the two empires. The continent had indeed been settled. There was no need to start a war. It was even possible that they would join the Martial Soul Alliance if they couldn't take it anymore. Regardless of enmity and position, Wang Feng felt that this kind of unification was not a bad thing. After thinking about it, Wang Fengxin sighed. Thank you. Wang Feng walked towards the soul-hunting forest outside of Heaven-Do City. There were many soul-hunting forests on the continent, some big and some small. The soul-hunting forest outside of Heaven-Do City was smaller than the setting sun forest, but it wasn't that dangerous. Most of the soul beasts inside were under 10,000 years old, but there were quite a few 10,000-year soul beasts. It was much better than Sunset Forest. In truth, the setting sun forest wasn't all that dangerous. However, due to the influx of soul cultivators, many soul beasts had died. Now that the soul beasts inside were rampaging, it was much more dangerous than before. After not coming back for a few years, the changes in the situation of the continent made Wang Feng feel that he was almost out of touch with the continent. For Wang Feng, the journey of several hundred miles only took a little more than 10 minutes. Before he arrived, Wang Feng sensed voices coming from behind him. These Soul Douluo are no match for us. Xiao Ao, give me a sausage. I want to take revenge for my captain. Fatty, be careful. Be careful of titled Douluo. Rong, rest for a while. I heard that Zhuqing has returned to the Star Luo Empire and discussed with Boss Dai. They plan to ally with the Heaven-Do Empire and wage war against the Martial Soul Alliance. When the time comes, we can snatch back these territories and the soul-hunting forest. Hey, I received a letter from Third Brother yesterday. He's in the Clear Sky sect now. He'll be back tomorrow at the latest. Oh yes, he said that he has good news for us. I wonder what it is. Be careful. They're here for reinforcements. Damn, why are they here? Fatty, be careful. There's a titled Douluo. A calm voice sounded from afar. Following this, there was a battle. Wang Feng's eyes were dim. He could sense everything clearly, even though they were several thousand meters away. The Martial Soul Hall couldn't let the Heaven-Do Empire take away such important soul beast resource areas so easily. Although there was no war, these special resource areas had become areas that they had to fight for. To put it bluntly, these places represented whether they could nurture more soul masters. For example, the higher-level soul-hunting forest was very important to many mid-tier and high-level soul masters. It's two titled Douluo from the Martial Soul Hall. Haven't you seen enough? Wang Feng swept his gaze across the distance. The 5 of them should be able to defeat them, but in the distance, outside the soul-hunting forest, Hulaina led 2 titled Dalu and a small team of more than 10 high-tier soul masters into this place. She immediately saw Ma Hongjun and the rest. "It's you?" Hulaina was dressed in black. She had a cold expression on her face. "I don't want to make things difficult for you. If you want to obtain the right to enter the soul-hunting forest for your academy, you can join the Martial Soul Alliance. Other than that, there's no other choice. Otherwise, you can go to the setting sun forest." There were 2 titled Dalu behind her. They looked to be in their 70s. When they saw Ma Hongjun and the rest, they were a little shocked. They seemed to be astonished by their soul power ranks. "Cut the crap. It's impossible for us to join the Martial Soul Alliance." Ma Hongjun shouted. "Hulaina, you let us go last time. But this time, you can do whatever you want. You haven't announced it to the world yet, right? The white-clothed Popetiff from the Martial Soul Hall is our captain in disguise. Look at how stupid and incompetent the Martial Soul Hall is. Our captain turned you into the white-clothed Popetiff, asking us to join a stupid, incompetent, and self-centered organization? That's simply a dream. And that Pope BB'd on. She killed our captain. We, the Shrek's 7 monsters, will avenge our captain sooner or later." Ma Hongjun's face turned red as he spoke. "That's right." Oscar laughed coldly. "We'll take revenge sooner or later. Today, we'll collect some interest." Shunling Qi and Bai Chenxiang walked over to the 2 of them. Although Ning Rongrong was alone and lonely, she pursed her lips and lost a lot of weight. Her face was a little pale, but her eyes were incomparably cold. She wasn't sad. She was just a little resentful. Hearing this, Hulaina clenched her fists. After a moment of silence, she said plainly, "He's not dead. You can't avenge him either. Don't waste your life." After she finished speaking, Ma Hongjun and the rest were stunned. P.S. It's a little late. Chapter 893. He's not dead. Didn't you say that he was already dead? Why isn't he dead now? They remembered clearly what happened on the Sea God's Island. Hulaina had said that when she brought them away. Why did she change her mind now? "I don't want to talk nonsense with you." Hulaina said, "I don't want to fight with you either. You can't beat us. We can't give you this soul-hunting forest. Our Martial Spirit Palace spent a lot of effort to build this place a long time ago. How can we just give it to you?" I'll say it again. Unless you join the Martial Soul Alliance. Otherwise, Hulaina's eyes flashed coldly as she said this. "Can't beat you? Just based on the 2 titled Douluo behind you? We're not afraid." Oscar said, "We're not trying to snatch your soul-hunting forest. We just want you to open it to us, even if we have to pay a certain amount of gold soul coins." Oscar sighed as he said this. He knew that the Martial Soul Alliance was doing this to force them to join them. Actually, it didn't care. They only came here for the sake of the Academy. Why would the Martial Soul Alliance open the soul-hunting forest to the Shrek Academy for some gold soul coins? Hulaina shook her head and said plainly, "Sure. According to the rules of our alliance, soul masters who don't belong to the Martial Soul Alliance have to pay 100,000 gold soul coins per person to enter the soul-hunting forest. If you can pay us, we can open it to you too. Otherwise, I advise you to leave quickly." They were speechless. This was even more impossible. "I think you're just trying to mess with our minds." Ma Hongjun put his hands on his hips and pointed at Hulaina. "Are you afraid of us? Are you trying to use Captain's information to mess us up so that we won't be able to fight? We don't believe your nonsense." Hulaina's eyes flashed coldly as she heard this. "Since that's the case, there's no other way. Elder Tianya and Elder D. Long, capture them and bring them back to the Alliance in the name of robbing them of the soul-hunting forest. The Pope will make the decision then. Temple's enforcers assist the 2 elders." After she finished speaking, Hulaina took 2 steps back. The 2 titled Dalu behind him walked forward. 9 soul rings lit up from their bodies one after another, even though it was just a standard configuration. However, the powerful auras of the 2 titled Dalu still gave everyone a lot of pressure. At the same time, the law enforcement team behind Hulaina also stepped forward. The Martial Soul Alliance now covered more than half of the continent's surface area, excluding the various large soul beast forests. It could be said that less than 30% of the two empires' territory remained, and many of the cities belonged to the two empires in name. However, the various large clans and powerful merchant guilds in the cities all joined the Martial Spirit Alliance. Even the various duchies under the two empires were under the influence of the Martial Spirit Alliance. These areas of influence included all sorts of resources and territories that were guarded by soul masters from the Martial Soul Alliance. The soul hunting forest, which was the most important strategic resource, was guarded by the Martial Soul Alliance's holy temple enforcers entitled Douluo, especially in the Heaven Do Empire. The Martial Soul Alliance's holy temple enforcers usually had more than 20 people. There were at least 3 to 5 auxiliary-type soul masters, more than 10 assault-type or agility-type soul masters, around 3 defense-type soul masters, and around 3 control-type soul masters. They were all above rank 60. There were at least 2 soul Douluo. Normally, there would be around 2 law enforcement teams in each soul hunting forest. Apart from the law enforcement teams, there were also hundreds of soul hunting knights in the soul hunting forest. They were considered regular soldiers, and their abilities were between rank 30 and rank 50. They were responsible for patrolling the various entrances to the soul hunting forest. He watched as the 2 titled Dalu and the 20-odd members of the enforcement team lit up their martial souls one after another. Ma Hongjun and the rest became wary. They had easily defeated a soul-hunting knight legion that was guarding the soul-hunting forest. They had thought that the Martial Soul Alliance's defense of the soul-hunting forest was only SOSO. However, after seeing the 2 titled Dalu and the 20-odd law enforcement team, they realized how strong the Martial Soul Alliance was. Disregarding the number of normal soldiers, the Martial Soul Alliance was probably the only organization that could afford to have so many mid-tier and high-tier soul masters. One had to know that this was merely the entrance. It's a pity that Zhu Qing and Boss Dai aren't around. Oscar sighed. Otherwise, these 2 titled Dalu, who weren't even rank 93, could easily deal with them. The main reason was that the law enforcement team had 3 control-type soul masters above rank 70, 3 auxiliary-type soul masters above rank 60, and 1 auxiliary-type soul master above rank 70. The rest of the assault-type soul masters were all around rank 70. Although they were all soul Dalu and had trained on the Sea God's Island, they were all very strong. They also had Ning Rongrong, who was super supportive. However, it was unrealistic to deal with these people from the Martial Soul Alliance. Among them, the 2 titled Dalu were not the most terrifying. It was the Holy Lady, Hulaina. She had also participated in the Sea God's trial on the Sea God's Island. She was very strong. Furthermore, she was the most difficult control-type soul master to deal with. Just as both parties were about to draw their swords, a voice suddenly sounded. "I'm afraid your Pope won't be able to make a decision." This voice was clear and full of spirit. It also had a vast aura. Everyone looked over and realized that 2 figures had landed in front of them. They were Tang San and Xiao Wu. However, right now, Tang San's aura was even thicker and more powerful. As soon as he landed, his 9 soul rings instantly blossomed. 5 black and 4 red. Tang San was already a titled Dalu. Just the aura that his soul rings gave off was enough to intimidate the 2 titled Dalu and the 20-odd members of the Sacred Temple's law enforcement team. Hulaina was startled as she looked at Tang San in shock. When they were on the Sea God's Island, Tang San still had 2 soul rings. 2 yellow and 1 purple soul ring. But now they were all black or red. Right now, the other figure beside Tang San attracted the attention of Ma Hongjun and the rest. It was Xiao Wu. It wasn't Xiao Wu's physical body that didn't have a consciousness. It was Xiao Wu with a soul. From Xiao Wu's lively eyes, they could tell that this was the real Xiao Wu. Third brother, Xiao Wu. Ma Hongjun opened his mouth wide and looked at the 2 of them in disbelief. "Xiao Wu, you've really come back to life?" Xiao Wu giggled and looked at everyone. "Long time no see, partners. I've always been in a half-spirit state. That's right, I've come back to life. Everyone looked at her in disbelief. Tang Sen smiled. His eyes were vast, but there was a heavy look in them. Chapter 894. That day, he had used all his strength to kill Bibidon. However, such a divine skill naturally consumed a lot of energy. He was pursued by 4 titled Douluo, but he still managed to escape safely in the end. After that, he immediately returned to the ice fire Yin-Yang well. He used that treasure ground and the light of the sea god to revive Xiao Wu. However, he lost a few soul rings. His abilities were reduced. Fortunately, he was in the setting sun forest. Therefore, Tang Sen immediately found several soul beasts in the setting sun forest to replenish his soul rings. His abilities returned to that of a titled Dalu. At the same time, he added 2 soul rings to his clear sky hammer. His abilities reached the peak of rank 94. Tang San was confident that he could defeat the sword Dalu, who was at rank 97. Xiao Wu's body had been tempered on the sea god's island, and she had accumulated a lot of energy. After accompanying Tang San to kill some evil soul beasts in the setting sun forest, her soul power had reached rank 70 after obtaining soul rings. After that, Tang San helped his mother recover in the ice fire Yin-Yang well. He used his blue-silver domain, which had already evolved, to restore her true body. After that, they walked out of the setting sun forest and returned to the clear sky sect with Tang Hao. After settling these matters, Tang San returned to Heavendo City. After hearing the news, he immediately rushed over. "Little San, didn't you say that you would be back tomorrow?" Oscar asked curiously. "I've settled the matters in the clear sky sect in advance, so I wanted to come back first." Tang San's gaze landed on Hulaina. He slowly said, "Hulaina, you've helped us this time. We don't want to make things difficult for you this time." As for the soul-hunting forest, Tang San looked at the 2 titled Dalu and said, "We can leave. This is your place. We have no right to interfere. However, you have to protect it." After speaking, Tang San turned around and left. Hearing this, Hulaina frowned. She didn't know what Tang San meant. To be precise, Hulaina didn't understand what Tang San said when he first appeared. "You think you can come and go as you please? Does your family own this place?" The 2 titled Dalu were intimidated by Tang San's aura, and they took a few steps back. They were both shocked and furious. At this moment, a glimmer of light flashed in their eyes. This was especially true for the Earth Dragon Dalu. Among the many titled Dalu, he was known for his strength, and his temper was rather irritable. His 7th soul ring lit up, and his martial soul true body appeared. He transformed into a horned earth dragon that was over 10 meters long. Its dark brown skin was covered with bright brown scales, and there was a single pitch-black horn on its head that shone coldly. Elder Delong, Hulaina sighed in her heart. She was well aware of Tang San's strength. When he left the sea god's island, he was only in the 80s. Now, he had become a titled Douluo, and his 9th soul ring was a 100,000-year one. What did this mean? But it was too late. As the soul rings on the Elder D. Long's body lit up, the air suddenly seemed to be compressed by a few times. Air currents gathered around this huge earth dragon, and he roared as he charged towards Tang San. With every step he took, the ground trembled intensely. If not for the fact that Ma Hongjun and the rest had high cultivations, they might not even be able to stand properly. That momentum gave them a pressure that was as heavy as Mount Tai and caused them to be locked in place. The ground seemed to have a magnet that sucked in their bodies. They knew that this was the Earth Dragon Douluo's powerful soul skill. However, just as the Earth Dragon Douluo was about to charge towards Tang San snorted coldly. The trident in his hand suddenly flashed, and Tang San's glabella lit up. The soul rings on his body flickered, and his body was like a fried dough twist. With his feet as an axis, he propelled his entire body, and the trident was like a clear sky hammer as he slashed it behind him. In an instant, the huge body of the Earth Dragon, which had the power to break 1,000 caddies, was sent flying more than 10 meters away by the halberd. This showed how powerful this simple slash was. The weight of the golden trident was maximized by this slash. Furthermore, Tang San used the disorder-splitting wind hammer technique. The Earth Dragon Douluo was instantly sent flying. Several rays of light from the temple's enforcement team landed on the Earth Dragon Douluo's body. They were all strengthening and healing lights. What weapon is that? The heavenly crow Douluo frowned as he looked at the trident. His eyes flickered with a strange light, but he did not make a move. Hulaina knew a little about it. That trident was probably some kind of divine weapon, just like the demon sickle in her teacher's hand and the holy sword in Qian Rinchue's hand. They were not ordinary items. Let's not make a move for now. Hulaina looked into the distance and said, "We can't beat him." He could send a rank 93 titled Douluo flying with a single strike, and he did not even use a soul skill. Just relying on that weapon, his abilities were not something that they could fight against. It would not be difficult for them to take the soul-hunting forest by force. Tang Xin smiled and said, "Don't worry, I won't take it by force. The Martial Soul Hall will hand over the soul-hunting forest yourselves." Hulaina looked at him and did not say anything. Tang Xin walked in front of Ma Hongjun and the rest. "Brother San, you're so strong now," Ma Hongjun chuckled. "Why don't we capture these people from the Martial Soul Alliance and let them use the soul-hunting forest as a ransom? We can forget about Hulaina. She helped us before. However, we don't have to let the rest go. Anyway, they wanted to capture us just now." Hearing this, Tang San was stunned. Then he laughed. "Fatty, I think your idea is not bad." Xiao Wu turned to look at the people from the Martial Soul Hall. Her eyes were filled with hatred. "Anyway, these people from the Martial Soul Alliance like to bully the weak. We have been bullied by them many times. We haven't taken revenge for what happened on Sea God's Island." Agreed. Oscar also laughed. "Originally, we couldn't do it with just a few of us, but with little San to capture them." Ning Rongrong was silent. She looked at Tang San and suddenly asked, "Brother San, Hulaina said that Wang Feng didn't die. Is it true?" Tang San smiled and nodded. "Yes, Brother Feng didn't die. To be precise, I don't believe that Brother Feng died. Moreover, we didn't see anything that day. I went to the Great Stardow Forest and saw Brother Feng. Speaking of which, what happened in the Great Stardow Forest was really thrilling. Let's talk about it later." Tang San's voice was filled with emotion and amazement. He seemed to be recalling something unbelievable. Then, a relaxed smile appeared on his face. "Little San, is this the good news you wanted to tell us?" Oscar asked curiously. "Not only this." Tang San calmed down. Then, he looked at Hulaina and said, "We don't want to make things difficult for you. You can leave by yourself. As for the rest of you, those who should stay will stay. Just take it as some interest for what happened on Sea God's Island. However, your biggest debt has been repaid." Chapter 895. Hulaina glanced at the pale-faced Earth Dragon Douluo, whose martial soul true body had disappeared. She shook her head and said, "Come if you want revenge. I won't go back alone. Earth Dragon Douluo, how are you?" The Earth Dragon Douluo coughed and shook his head. "I'm fine." As he spoke, he glanced at Hulaina hesitantly. They seemed to have realized something from their conversation. The Holy Lady had let these people go, but what if she was trying to sow discord within the Martial Soul Alliance? The Earth Dragon Douluo and Heavenly Crow Douluo looked at each other. They didn't completely believe each other. Especially now that Hulaina had chosen to stay, they didn't have any doubts. Ma Hongjun and Oscar glanced at each other on the other side. "It seems like these people aren't so easily fooled." Ma Hongjun whispered, "I purposely said those things just now to make them suspicious of the Holy Lady. I wanted them to disobey Hulaina's orders. I didn't expect them to be so united. They didn't suspect Hulaina at all. Hulaina didn't choose to leave either. The Martial Soul Alliance is much more stable than we thought." Oscar nodded slightly. The Martial Soul Alliance was much more united than they thought. "Third brother, where is he now?" Ning Rongrong asked at this moment. "Brother Feng should still be in the Great Stardow Forest." Tang San thought for a moment. The last time he saw Brother Feng, He remembered that Brother Feng was absorbing the soul ring of that million-year soul beast. However, Tang Sin didn't know whether Wang Feng had successfully absorbed it. When he was chased by the four-titled Dalu, he was already very far away. Great Stardow Forest. Hulaina was stunned. She remembered that the Pope had also gone to the Great Stardow Forest. She wondered if Teacher would deal with Wang Wu again. At this moment, Hulaina looked into the distance and frowned. Tang-san, I advise you not to mess around. It's best. Hulaina fell silent as she said this. At the same time, the Heavenly Crow Douluo and Earth Dragon Douluo laughed coldly. Why? Third brother is here. Why are you still struggling? Ma Hongjun wasn't afraid. You still want us to leave? You are about to become prisoners. TSK, TSK. Let's see if the Martial Soul Alliance can still be so arrogant after capturing two titled Dalu. After he finished speaking, he released his martial spirit and looked at Hulaina and the others. But at this moment, Tang San frowned slightly, as if he had noticed something. At the same time, a voice sounded from afar. She's right. You should leave now. Whoosh! A ray of sword light came from the west. The scarlet-green sword light landed in front of the crowd in an instant. In the distance, a figure slowly walked over. Seeing this figure, the pupils of the group suddenly shrank in an instant. This was because this figure was incomparably familiar to all of them. Many years had passed, but no one would ever forget that familiar outfit. Ning Rongrong's delicate body trembled as her gaze fell upon the figure. On the other side, Hulaina was the same. Her eyes were slightly infatuated. Then, she bit the tip of her tongue and quickly recovered her mind. However, the trembling of her hands and the violent beating of her heart were unable to conceal her inner feelings. The battle on Sea God's Island. The white-clothed Pope-Tiff Wang Wu was the Martial Soul Hall's greatest enemy, Wang Feng. Although this identity had been exposed, Pope Bibidon did not announce this matter to the world for the sake of the Martial Soul Hall's reputation. When he returned, he strictly ordered everyone not to reveal any information about this matter to anyone in the Martial Soul Alliance. The white-clothed Pope-Tiff was still just Wang Wu. In addition, Wang Feng had already been killed, so the thousands of Soul Masters who went to Sea God's Island did not reveal any information about this matter after they returned. Otherwise, if this news were to be made public, it would cause an uproar. He didn't know what kind of uproar it would cause, and the Martial Spirit Alliance's prestige would suffer a huge blow. The Heavenly Crow Doa and the Earth Dragon Doa did not go to Sea God's Island, so they did not know about this matter. Captain, Ma Hongjun and the others looked at the figure in the distance in shock. Although they had just confirmed from Tang San that Wang Feng was not dead, seeing it with their own eyes made them feel completely different. How did he survive under the hands of Bibidon, who was so strong that it made one's scalp tingle? Moreover, he appeared here in one piece. He looks exactly the same. He can't be an imposter, right? Oscar shuddered. He looked at the figure in the distance who was quickly walking over. In just a moment, he was in front of them. He was wearing a black robe and had taken off his mask. That handsome face seemed to have gathered all the essence of the world. That familiar charm made everyone believe that there would not be a second person in this world who had it. It was Wang Feng. Fatty, this is the second time I see the true appearance of your monster captain, Wang Feng, and I suddenly feel that you are very ugly. By Qinxiang kicked Ma Hongjuan's foot. Hearing this, Ma Hongjuan's face immediately turned bitter, but then he heard Bai Qinxiang laugh softly. Unfortunately, I just like an ugly guy like you. Ma Hongjuan's heart skipped a beat. He held Bai Qinxiang's small hand and laughed. After the 3 years of experience on Sea God's Island, the two of them had already established a relationship after narrowly escaping death at sea. Actually, I think that for Captain, perhaps the most unremarkable thing about him is his appearance. Ma Hongjun pondered and said, the most remarkable thing about him is his strength and ability. I don't think there is anyone in this world who can do what he did. He was able to enter the inner circle of the Martial Spirit Palace and become the White Pope-Tiff. In comparison, his appearance is actually nothing. He is just a little more handsome than me. Bai Qinxiang suddenly giggled. Don't flatter yourself. On the other side, Shun Lingqi also poked Oscar's shoulder. Is it really that Wang Feng? It must be. Oscar pointed at the flying sword. There is no other person in this world who can have this kind of aura other than Captain. At this time, their eyes fell on the figure. Only Ning Rongrong took the lead and moved. She took a big step forward and rushed toward the figure. The yearning for him on Sea God's Island, the pain and helplessness in her heart when she was reluctant to leave Sea God's Island, and the worry she had these days seemed to burst out at this moment. Although she had suspected the identity of the White Pope Diff early on Sea God's Island, she had never expressed it. Only a sentence or two occasionally revealed the suspicion in her heart. Her words were very vague, so other than Wang Feng, no one else could understand. Wang Feng. Ning Rongrong threw herself at Wang Feng. Like a koala, she held Tower Master Wang Feng's back tightly with both hands. I don't care. Next time, you can't leave me. Wang Feng. I'm here to tell you that I'm planning to leave. Rongrong, you've lost weight. Wang Feng looked at Ning Rongrong's face, which had lost a lot of weight. Although her face was still delicate, her cheeks were much thinner, and her chin was a little sharp. Her round body exuded the fragrance of a young girl, but also bloomed with a light and mature aura. Fortunately, although she had lost weight, she had also grown bigger. Where there is loss, there is gain. Wang Fengxin sighed in his heart. Isn't it all your fault? Ning Rongrong sobbed and hit Wang Feng. I've been on the Sea God's Island for more than 3 years, and I've been thinking about you every day. Do you know how many times I've dreamed of you? It wasn't easy to see you no longer hiding your identity when we left the island, but we encountered those things. Wang Fengxin said, You didn't just dream about me many times. You even lusted after my body in your dreams. When he was on Sea God's Island, he often used the golden lotus at night to heal this girl's body that was injured during training. It improved her body constitution. Naturally, he knew about this girl's dreams. All right, stand properly. Look at yourself. Aren't you ashamed? Wang Feng patted Ning Rongrong's back. This girl wrapped her legs around his waist. If it was Zhu Zhuqing, she would never do such a thing. I'm hugging the person I like. What's wrong with that? Ning Rongrong reluctantly let go of Wang Feng, but her hands were still wrapped around Wang Feng's back. She was afraid that he would run away in the next moment. When we were on Sea God's Island, Xiaowu often ran out of third brother's soul ring to be intimate with him. She was just a spirit, but she couldn't resist it, let alone a living person like me. Ning Rongrong pouted. Her eyes seemed to be dyed with color and sparkled. Rongrong, what nonsense are you talking about? Xiaowu said shyly and angrily. You couldn't resist being intimate with Brother Feng. Don't compare yourself to me. Tangsen also coughed a few times. This kind of thing really happened before. Although the two of them didn't reach that level, they had already touched and kissed each other. However, Tang San was more traditional. He didn't want to do that before he married Xiao Wu officially. In the distance, Hulaina looked at Ning Rongrong's coquettish and angry face and snorted coldly in her heart. Little vixen, she felt a little sour in her heart. That's enough. Wang Feng coughed a few times and let go of Ning Rongrong's tightly hugged hands. Ning Rongrong acted coquettishly and didn't let go, until Wang Feng took her hand. This made her laugh and snuggle up to Wang Feng. You guys leave here first. Wang Feng looked at Tang San and the others. On the way just now, he sensed that Tang San was coming. He was well aware of the situation after that. Okay, we'll listen to you. Ning Rongrong didn't know why Wang Feng asked them to leave, but at this moment, her heart was calm. Brother Feng, do you mean? Tang San said in a low voice. What I mean to say is that they are here precisely to delay you all. Wang Feng looked into the distance. Golden light filled the air. Hulaina and the others knew that Ma Hongjun and the others came to snatch the soul-hunting forest. They would definitely report it to the higher-ups. As for what level of existence would come, it would definitely not be simple. It would not be Gue Ju or Qianjun Demon Fighter. The four of them should have returned to the Pope's palace at this time, but they would definitely be very powerful titled Douluo. When Bibi Don set up a defense line in the coastal city to catch Tang San and the others, although they escaped. But the Martial Soul Hall would not let them go so easily. Even if Tang San and the others escaped, they would definitely want to catch them. And the Shrek Academy was their primary target. At this time, Ma Hongjun and the others came to snatch the soul-hunting forest, which was naturally what they wanted. Hulaina and the others probably reported the news to the headquarters as soon as they knew about it. Then they sent Hulaina and the others to delay Ma Hongjun and the others and see if they could lure them all. Otherwise, when Tang San showed his martial soul, the Earth Dragon Douluo would not have attacked for no reason. What a joke! 5 black and 4 red. 400,000-year soul rings. He was a rank 93 title Douluo, 1 level lower than Tang San. Where did he get the courage to attack Tang San? How could a titled Douluo not know the power of a 100,000-year soul ring? There was no hope of victory at all, so why would he attack so recklessly? Every single titled Douluo had cultivated for countless years, and none of them were stupid. He did this just to delay Tang San and the others. Let them stay here. In fact, Hulaina had been reminding them to leave. But it was a pity that it did not have any effect. When the others heard Wang Feng's words, they were first stunned and then suddenly woke up. Tang San looked into the distance. His perception was very strong. Before Wang Feng appeared, he had already sensed something. At this time, a loud voice came from afar. White-clothed poked if Wang Wu, 9-1 start Wang Feng. Good boy, I didn't expect you to be alive under such circumstances. His voice was loud and clear, and it carried a sense of majesty. Subconsciously, Ma Hongjun and the others groaned in unison. Their expressions changed drastically, and blood rushed to their cheeks. The only ones who were not affected were Tang San and Wang Feng. But Tang San felt the pressure double, and he could not help but take a deep breath. It was the aura of a peerless Douluo, thousand Dao flow. This voice seemed to contain boundless soul power, and it penetrated the void. In the next moment, a golden figure, like a shining sun, appeared in the distance. It was Thousand Dao Flow. Other than that, there were 5 titled Douluo behind Thousand Dao Flow. They were the 5 titled Douluo who appeared on Sea God's Island. They were all elders or consecrated in the Elder Hall. The 3 pairs of wings in mid-air exuded a dazzling divine power. The entire sky seemed to be sealed, and only endless pressure came down like a tsunami. You guys did well. Thousand Dao Flow looked at Hulaina and the 2 titled Dao, Tianya and Di Long. Hearing this, everyone's faces sank again. Even Tang San frowned as he looked at Thousand Dao Flow. With his current strength, it was completely unrealistic for him to defeat Thousand Dao Flow. Even if he used the Sea God's Trident, he could not defeat a rank 99 peerless Douluo. The gap was still too big, unless his clear sky hammer was full of soul rings. There's no other way. Wang Feng shrugged. Maybe God doesn't want me to die. My old man, you want to capture us? Thousand Dao Flow, he snorted coldly. He stared at Wang Feng. His eyes were also filled with disbelief. He thought that he would capture everyone, including Tang San, today. The situation in the Shrek Academy, the Heaven Do Empire, and the Setting Sun Forest would not have been so exaggerated if the Martial Soul Alliance had not secretly manipulated them. It was all for the sake of capturing the Shrek's 7 monsters, the last big problem of the Martial Soul Alliance. After all, if Wang Feng died, the Martial Soul Alliance's biggest enemy would be Tang San. This person, who had also inherited a godly position, was more important than the leaders of the 2 empires. But he did not expect. Not only did this kid not die, but he also appeared in this place. P.S. This chapter has more than 4,000 words. It's 2 chapters. I forgot to separate them. There's still 3 chapters. Chapter 896. Thousand Daos Lu looked at him seriously. He couldn't forget the last scene on the Sea God's Island. He fought Bibidon, and his heart was pierced. There was no chance of him surviving. Because of this, Xiao Shui almost fell out with her mother. Now, this brat had really appeared in front of him alive. From the looks of it, his aura was not bad. Back then, this kid had been able to fight BB Dong back and forth. In the end, he had even almost killed BB Dong. However, that kind of self-destructive attack had caused too much damage to his body. Furthermore, BB Dong didn't use his martial soul true body. Even so, that kid's strength was still extraordinary. Thousand Daos, Lu squinted his eyes. That day on the Sea God's Island, he had used his ninth soul skill, the Great Radiant Heavenly Hall's Judgment, when he was severely injured. He had lost. However, it was also because of that battle that he had improved a little. After all, it was rare for someone of his level to fight to that extent. Usually, he would gain a lot from that battle. Now, he was in full condition. There were also 5 titled Douluo behind him. These 5 titled Douluo weren't simple. They were the 4th, 5th, and 6th consecrated. Although the other 2 weren't consecrated, they were still elders in the Elders' Hall. They were stronger than the 7th and 8th consecrated, Qian Jun and Yan Mo. If not for the battle between Wang Feng and BB Dong, which depleted Bibidon's abilities, the Sea God's Island would have been destroyed. With their remaining strength, the Sea God's Island might not have survived. Kid, you were lucky to escape on the Sea God's Island. You won't be able to escape this time. Thousand Daos Lu looked at Wang Feng with a half-smile. I didn't want to care about the rest, but I can't anymore. Why don't you follow me back to the Martial Soul Alliance's headquarters, and I'll let them go today. Hearing this, Wang Feng frowned. Thousand Daos Lu had something to say. Why do you want me to return to the Martial Soul Alliance's headquarters? BB Dong should be seriously cultivating to become a god now. At this moment, Ning Rongrong suddenly pulled Wang Feng's arm tightly and whispered, Wang Feng, you can't go back. Of course, Wang Feng wouldn't go back to the Martial Spirit Palace. He didn't have time to go back. Senior, it's best to cut the crap. Tang San's expression was grave as he looked at the 1,000 streams and the 5 titled Douluo behind him. The trident in his hand was held in front of him, the core in the middle emitting a dazzling light. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Poseidon's trident. Qian Dalu snorted coldly. With a shake of his hand, a huge sword burning with golden flames suddenly appeared in his hand. Everyone was very familiar with this huge sword. It was the giant sword that Qianren Shui used. It was also a divine weapon. Angelic holy sword. Wang Feng was stunned. Wasn't the sword already in Qianren Shui's hands? How could there be 1,000 Outstream? Was there something wrong with Qianren Shui? In theory, Qian Dalu was also a great consecrator who had passed the angel examination and was qualified to use the angelic holy sword. It was just that its power was not as great as Qianren Shui's. It was just like how Possessi could also use the Poseidon's trident, but its power was definitely not as great as Tang San's. Kid, are you very curious? Qian Dalu seemed to have seen the doubt in Wang Feng's eyes. If you want to know the reason, then come back to Martial Spirit City with me. Wang Feng shook his head. He felt that Qian Dalu was doing this on purpose. Qianren Shui should be in the 8th test now. Was he trying to break through to the 9th test? Oomph. Qian Dalu snorted coldly. His snort was like thunder. In the next moment, 9 soul rings were released from his body. At the same time, the 5 titled Doa behind Qian Dalu let out a low roar and released their martial souls. Previously on Sea God's Island, the 5 of them had not been able to unleash their powers before the battle ended. It was different now. These 5 titled Douluo seemed to be rather unique. Their martial souls belonged to 5 different elements. Wind, fire, earth, water, wood. They represented 5 different elemental martial souls. Phoenix Song, Flame Sparrow, Earthen Tortoise, Water Boa Snake, Wood Sprout Lizard. The 5 of them were all elders, and their bodies were releasing 5 different types of light. Speaking of which, these 5 martial spirits belonged to the category of martial spirits that were not very powerful. They were considered very ordinary martial souls, and they only had one element. Compared to the martial souls of the blood students from the Heaven Do Empire's 4 great elemental academies, they were much weaker. However, they were able to cultivate to the level of titled Douluo, and their fighting strength was extremely strong. This was because these 5 different martial souls could harmonize the energy of heaven and earth when they cultivated together. They could create a unique cultivation environment and, at the same time, increase the cultivation speed of the 5 of them. This was a very rare example that was discovered in the Martial Soul Hall Academy decades ago. After they cultivated together, their cultivation speed reached a very exaggerated level. Their innate soul power ranks weren't high, but these 5 types of ordinary elemental beast martial souls actually had a mysterious feeling of compatibility. This was something that other powerful elemental martial souls could not achieve. After many research, many soul masters in the Martial Soul Hall found that these 5 martial souls were all ordinary grassroots elemental martial souls, so they had such a high compatibility. The most interesting thing was that after these 5 examples appeared, the Martial Soul Hall could no longer find these 5 different ordinary elemental martial souls. Although these 5 elemental martial souls were ordinary, it seemed to be extremely difficult to find all of them at the same time. Every time he gathered 4 types, the remaining one would be nowhere to be found no matter how hard he tried. It was very strange. It was as if heaven and earth were destined to only appear in this batch of special elemental martial souls. And now, these 5 people had cooperated for many years, so they could use a powerful 5-in-1 martial soul fusion skill. It was one of the trump cards of the Martial Soul Hall. They had originally planned to cooperate with BB Dawn to fight the Shanghai Divine Mountain. However, BB Dawn was no longer able to fight back then. As a result, the 5 titled Douluo were unable to unleash their full abilities. Attack! Thousand Flowing Angel Holy Sword pointed at Wang Feng and the others below. As soon as he finished speaking besides them, the 2 titled Douluo beside Hulaina also moved. Hulaina gritted her teeth and looked at Wang Feng. She also unwillingly lit up her martial soul. At the same time, Tang San and the others also moved. I won't let you take Wang Feng away. Ning Rongrong snorted. Wang Feng, you go, I'll support you. Wang Feng shook his head and said, no, your support is not as strong as mine. Ning Rongrong. She suddenly remembered that Wang Feng seemed to be an auxiliary-type soul master at first. Now that she thought about it, when she was in the Great Soul Arena with him, Wang Feng used an auxiliary-type ability. At that time, he used a martial soul fusion skill. Later, he also used it when practicing. Later, he used less and less. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.